Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the MotorMotion E-Series Trak Racer TCR Cup. It's Season 2, Round 2, and we are here in the Americas still at Grand Valley Highway 1, a fictional place, but a place that we love nonetheless. Lots of seals and seagulls here at this beautiful, beautiful location. Bridges and all sorts of areas for the drivers to navigate today. But of course, we are, of course, back at 24 laps here today at the beautiful Grand Valley Highway circuit. My name is George Cooke, and in the commentary box with me tonight, it is Nick Pautasso, and of course our pit lane reporter, Ando. Good evening, gentlemen.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to what is Season 2 of the Trak Racer TCR Cup for Round 2 at the most glorious, picturesque scenery that we have here. It is the return of Grand Valley Highway. Yes, it is. We're finally seeing this track back on our Gran Turismo platform. So thank you, Polyphony, for bringing it back. But it's very much a different look here. It's basically been located on the Pacific Ocean coast of California. So it's obviously that's why we're getting all our picturesque scenes. It's the same layout that we've seen since GT1 days, but obviously with the change of scenery, it just gives our drivers just a bit of time just to reminisce the scenery, the ocean that is on the outskirts of California. But it is a very tight and twisty track. There's not much room for overtaking. It's basically single file, so any moves that a driver makes has to make it count. But also like to welcome in our pit lane reporter. Yes, it is Andrew Scott back in the comm box for us. Andrew, what can you tell us about the race conditions today?
G'day Nick, g'day George, g'day viewers. Yeah, I'm excited for today's race. I've just been down to the race control room with a few beers for the boys, but I didn't have much luck. Apparently they're going to be out there with their paddling sticks for the track limit penalties today, I believe.
Oh, good on them. That's going to be excellent. I see some burgers on screen as well, so maybe we'll get a little bit of a feed this time. We'll see, but as Nick was saying before, this is a true Gran Turismo original track. It's a beautiful circuit. I was a bit surprised myself when we saw quite the different location, but it is absolutely beautiful. What you're seeing on screen at the moment is the new location in usually sunny California. It's a bit cloudy out there for our first lobby, but track distance here, 5.009 kilometers. We've got 18 turns, some very, very tricky corners out there, some long straights, and some very, very hard braking zones. The mandatory tire today will be the racing hard tire for both lobbies. We're going for 24 laps. We've got qualifying happening right now for the first lobby, and the second lobby will be going on after the race has come to its conclusion. Of course, there's a new format here in the TCR season, and that format is going to be basically 2 split lobbies. They are not divisions. The drivers are not being ranked this time, and both drivers from each team will be in each of the lobbies. The lobbies will have teams switching between them throughout the season, with the final race switching to teams between the lobbies. So that is what we're looking forward to today. We're going to go through a little bit of the information on track before we get to our qualifying grid. So here we are, 10-minute qualifying. Obviously, that's happening at this moment. 40-minute race. Excuse me, 40-minute race. And of course, make sure you check us out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. The format today, of course, as we said, is a 40-minute race for each of the lobbies. It's a round 2 broadcast here. So, yeah, second round, 5 rounds to go after this one. Very exciting. Of course, this is myself here, and we've got, of course, our sister channel, our big sister channel, or big brother channel, in Track Stars. Make sure you check them out. Nick will be hosting a live broadcast tomorrow evening, and yeah, it's one to watch, trust me. But, of course, today you are watching the home of Gran Turismo here in the MotorMotion E-Series. Go and check us out on our website, www.motormotioneseries.wordpress.com, for articles, for results, and all the information about what is happening at the moment. So we're going to quickly run through our team's title standings. We're not going to go through each result here. You're perfectly capable of reading what's on screen yourself, but Cooke Driver Development Team has been leading the way after round 1, and they're going to be looking to continue a good run of form here. So, chaps, what are we thinking today? Who's going to be the teams and drivers to keep an eye on?
Well, I definitely think it's going to be looking in the hands of definitely CP Motorsports. We saw Dan Wood take out that race win in Lobby 1 last time out. He's back in this Lobby 1 tonight with his teammate in Kevin Cooper, but I'm looking forward to see if he can back it up, because that Suzuki Swift around here could be a very strong car around here. A lot of corners, a lot of sharp flowing corners that will definitely suit the car's characteristics. But I'm definitely also keen to see what Hooncorp can do. They're down in 6th place, but they didn't really have a great race with Lewis Atkinson finishing 2nd last time out. So, and now he's got his teammate in Rain Campbell back in the squad. So I'll be looking forward to seeing what Hooncorp can do later on this evening.
Excellent. Here's our results from last time out for round 1. This is the Lobby 1 results. We'll be looking at the Lobby 2 result a little bit later in the broadcast. So it was Dan Wood that took fastest lap and the win for CP Motorsports last time in that Suzuki Swift. Can he do it again today? I'm hearing from the grid that our qualifying results are in. So, Nick, please take us through the results from qualifying.
Absolute pleasure. With 10 minutes of qualifying, here is the grid that we're going to be starting us here tonight. It is the man starting on pole position, just like he did in round 1. It is Dan Wood on pole position for CP Motorsports, and that's Suzuki Swift. Monica Camilleri in the Volkswagen Scirocco in 2nd. Peter McKenzie for Roadsick in 3rd, and Drew Eisen, Camilleri's teammate, inside the top 4. So that's a great start for Whiplash Motorsport with their their Volkswagen Scirocco's in that top 4. So one to keep an eye on is Drew Eisen. And even in Dan Wood in P1, let's see how much of a lead he can pull out through. Jeremy Crow in 5th place alongside his teammate in Mark Pacheco. So Colin Racing Team right up the pecking order yet again, just like they were last time out at Willow Springs. And then we have Craig Harcourt, who was in the Privateer Cup last time out at Willow Springs, is now back in the fold in the main lobby in 7th place. And then Ben Churchill rounding up the top 8. For Roadsick Racing, I believe, as well. So Roadsick getting 2 of their cars inside the top 8 with an R&R in 7th place. Then we have Blake Williamson in 9th place, and then Steve Smith in rounding up the top 10s for Black Rose Racing. So he didn't really have a good time out last time, but we'll wait and see how high up he can move up towards the grid. And then we have Bryce Cantwell just outside the top 10 in 11th place. And then in 12th place, we have, I'm trying to remember, Leah de Oliveira for Black Rose Racing. So there you go. So the 2 drivers from Black Rose Racing, 10th and 12th place, with Kentwell in the R&R livery. And then Kingsley Hoey in 13th place. And a surprise named yet here, Mitch Collin down in 14th place here. So the driver that owns Colin Racing Team and now driving for Boosted Racing Team down in 14th place. And then Kevin Cooper in 15th and last place with the missing driver in 16th place. So we're going to see a lot of fireworks here tonight. I can't wait to see what Mitch Collin can do from the back of the field, and hopefully he might be able to propel himself back inside that top 8. But I will say we do need to watch out for those Whiplash Motorsport Scirocco's, because around here, the Swift and the Scirocco, that's going to be a great battle to see as we get ourselves ready to go onto the grid here. The Seals, the crowds are flocking in. The Seals are flocking in onto the coast side. We are ready to go for the lights out here. And George, why don't you do the honours, my friend?
We certainly are. So here we go. We're going to be going to the race immediately. So we've got 1 light, we've got 2 lights, we've got 3 lights here, 4 lights, 5 lights. We're waiting for the full start grid. And here we go. Green flags are out for round 2, Grand Valley. And it's a great start from Dan Wood. A good start from PJ Mack as well. He's gotten ahead slightly of Monica Camilleri. Lots of action happening down the back of the pack. Some getting a good start, some not getting a good start as well. And oh, that's a car off there, a big spin down the back of the grid. It's Renegade. It's Renegade for CP Motorsports. The 575 car's gone for a spin. But looking back at the start here, we've got the 27 car for CP Motorsports. A big CP Motorsports sandwich starting off Lobby 1 here. And Dan Wood leads us away for this race. Looks like PJ Mack and Monica Camilleri also going at it into turn 3 at this stage of the race. Not a bad start here for the TCR Cup, round 2.
Absolutely great start there by Dan Wood. Peter McKenzie moving up a position into P2. Monica just loses out. Unfortunately, the biggest loser out of all that is Drew Eisen down in 7th place. They didn't get the start that he wanted. Just a little bit shell-shocked at the beginning. Just didn't capitalize on his opportunity. And in saying that, he picked up a 1-second penalty for quarter carter getting on those track limits. It's very hard to find track limits here, but you just clip the dirt on the inside or the outside of this track and you do get yourself an unfortunate penalty. So unfortunately for Eisen, that could be seeing him down outside the top 10, but it's a great start for the CP driver. Suzuki Swift 1-2. And as we cross down to our pit lane reporter in Andrew Scott, obviously you got a great view of that turn 1 incident involving car 575. Can you tell us a little bit more what happened there?
Yeah, unfortunately, he's been spun around by a somewhat questionable move by the car in front, leading into turn 1. But the good news is he got no damage. He was able to get up and running, and I think he's catching the back of the pack already.
He certainly
Excellent.
is. Yep, and Drew Eisen did serve that penalty. That drops him back now into 10th position. So really unfortunate to see a driver go from 4th to 10th in one lap. Very unfortunate. There's a move there being done by a Peugeot. I think that might have been Rusty. Yes, it is. So now he's got a great run on Pacheco, who's in front of him. But nice little train. It'll be a good place for slipstream down here. And of course, one of the biggest overtaking opportunities at this circuit is going to be into the first corner. A very tricky right-hander after a sudden sort of big braking zone there. And oh, that was an interesting moment there for that car. That was a little bit of a bump stop there. It looks like they ran over, but might have been a bit of net code. We'll see a little bit later on. But now under a lot of pressure from another Suzuki Swift. What is it with these Suzukis? They are absolutely everywhere.
Well, Monica's used to them, but unfortunately she's behind 2 of them in this race. So she's got instead of Suzuki Swift, she's got a whole gaggle of Peugeot RCZs behind her, 3 of them actually. And then the odd one out is Ben Churchill in the Road Sick Racing Suzuki Swift. So she's fended off Suzuki's, and now she's going to have to defend off from 3 Peugeots, 2 from Colin Racing Team and from RN Racing that is supported by Craig Harcourt. So as we see there, doing a very good job there. But what I noticed on the main straight there, the cars are very even on the straight line speed between both Peugeot and Suzuki, and then obviously you see the Scirocco just pulls its legs, just stretches its legs a little bit on that straight. So I think for Monica's case, she just needs to just try and build a bit of a gap between the Peugeots and the Suzuki, so that way they can tussle for position while she tries to set her eyes forward for both Dan Wood and Peter McKenzie in 1st and 2nd place. But looking down the back there, rounding up the outside of the top 7 in that battle pack, we have Blake Williamson in the boosted racing team Audi TT. So the first of the Audis actually inside that top 8, and then we have the first of the Renault Meganes in Steve Smith in 9th place for Black Rose Racing. Very nice, simple and great livery that Black Rose always put out in their cars, no matter what series they run. So Smith looking to make a move on Williamson there. Does it, but they're going to go side by side onto the bridge and into the tunnel for the 2nd lap here. He's got the inside line, and looks like Williamson has to concede there. Very nice move there by the Renault driver, but with that Audi TT, it's got a little bit more straight line speed over that Renault Megane. No, he's actually a little bit quite the opposite. So it looks like Megane might be a little bit faster down the straight there. Oh, breaks it early.
Does break early. There's contact from behind. Boosted Blake there for Blake Media. Unfortunately, gets into the rear bumper. That might be damage for these chaps here because the heavy damage is, of course, enabled. And that does bring Drew Eisen, who's running behind this Audi in 9th spot, back into the play at this stage. He's got Fly behind him in P11 as well. So a nice little battle pack evolving down the rear part of this grid. But that little punt there has kind of launched the Black Rose Racing car a little bit further ahead on track. So he'll be slightly happy with that. Hopefully neither of them are holding any damage at this stage of the race. And maybe our pit lane reporter can give us an idea if there is any damage from that contact early on.
There's been no damage that I've seen so far, so it's fair play and play on for everyone. But I can tell you right now, there is a mixture of tyres being used by the cars throughout the grid. So you can probably tell, obviously, out front who's on what. But all the way down through the grid, there's a mixture of hard and soft running.
Very interesting indeed there. We haven't really seen too many drivers enter the pit lane in the opening few laps there, so you can definitely tell some of the drivers could potentially be on racing softs or racing mediums depending on their hardware of choice here. So very interested to see like who is actually one of the drivers that might come into the pit lane nice and early, because I'm not so sure about this track, whether it's a very high degradation around here or whether it's low. I'm not 100% sure. There's a lot of flowing corners, there's a lot of stop starts, and obviously being a clockwise circuit, obviously that front left of the front tyres will definitely be copying a bit of a whack, could be copying a bit of a pounding. But I guess as well, it might be very even tyre wear. So I don't know about you. I'm not so sure what you see in your telemetry there, Ando. But is there any difference between the two compounds in both softs and mediums, or are we seeing a very similarly matched tyre degradation?
Oh yeah, there's a difference, that's for sure. There's some front left tyres that are already hurting pretty badly. And obviously the hards, the people on hards don't have an issue, but the hards are, they say from all the telemetry and data that's been gathered, the hards are up to 3 seconds a lap slower. So quite interesting to see some people starting on hards. So they're doing long stints on hards by the looks of it.
Now we've got a little battle going on here. Crow has just made it past one of the Colin Racing car Peugeots there, so he's starting a little bit of a charge in that Suzuki Swift. And of course, Monica Camilleri still holding on to third spot here, but got 3 cars behind her. And the top 2 have really pulled away at this stage of the race. Both of them are Suzukis, which, you know, it's not indicative of any kind of disparity between them. We know that all these cars have their advantages and disadvantages, and that it does balance out incredibly well, despite there being 5 different cars available for the teams.
More to do with the tyre they're on, I'd say.
Yes, absolutely. So in that case, let's run through get an update, I think, now about what tyres everyone is on, please. Andrew Scott.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm just away from the screen at the moment, so I can't tell you about it. I can tell you the front 2 are definitely on softs. Mackenzie, interestingly, is doing better with his tyre wear. And third place there, Monica, she's a little bit of a bottleneck for everyone because she is running hards.
Yeah,
that's why we could see the pace difference between the top 2 and Monica, and that's why she's holding up the pack right behind her. So she's doing a fantastic job too. We saw this a spectacular performance between her, and she looks like she's slowing down a little bit. She's coming into the pit lane. Yes, she is. So there you go. So lap 4 of 24. So 4 laps on those hard tyres, and now she's going to break through and do 20 laps of soft running, or even jumping on the medium tyres. 70% fuel, so she hasn't lost too much of it in 4 laps, but that does give Mark Pacheco a bit more clean air now, and trying to pull away from Churchill right down behind in the car number 8, Road Sig Racing Suzuki, and then his teammate and Jeremy Crow right behind inside the top 5. We have Harcourt still doing a very nice job to hold on to 6th place, and Smith, we can see the incident there. It looks like he's just caught the gravel trap. It doesn't look like he's picked up any damage there, so thank goodness for him. If this was the 1950s, he'd be off that cliff there and into the seas of the Pacific Ocean there, but thankfully with the FIA standard procedures, we've got some Armco barriers there to protect all the drivers and all sim races, so thankfully for him, he's not in the middle of the ocean there, George.
Yeah, thank goodness for that, because those barriers would have saved him if he had gone any further. The battle now between Rosick and Colin Racing is heating up for this now 3rd position spot, with Monica Camilleri obviously coming into the pits earlier on and going for a bit of an early tyre change. One to keep an eye on, I think. Not quite sure what the ultimate strategy would be at this track. Mediums could be an option here. Of course, if you do get yourself off the hard tyres, that is the mandatory tyre for today. And now a slipstream effect here for Neon, and that's Ben Churchill. He'll get a nice slipstream. Down under the tunnel we go, and there's not quite enough room there. Pacheco does cover him off beautifully in that Peugeot. Very nice stuff, and into one of the trickier sections of this track here. Very hard to get on the throttle early through this section, but you really need to do it because you come down essentially through another tunnel, over a bridge, through another tunnel, and onto the main straight, and it is flat out from that tight little chicane all the way down to the main first corner. It is a very, very long straight. There's a huge opportunity for slipstream, and already going defensive is Pacheco. He doesn't want Ben Churchill to have any part of that inside line. Going to force him round the outside if he can possibly manage it. We'll see if there's any room there. Looks like that Peugeot's got a really good bit of top end on that car.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's obviously helping him get across that start finish line with a bit more of a gap on Churchill, but Churchill's really closed up, especially under the brakes here. So what can he do in that number 8 Road Sig Racing? Can he start to fake a move on towards the inside as they go down to turn 5 on lap 6 of 24? Pacheco goes defensive. Churchill has to go around the long way. Can he get a cut back in on the exit of turn 5? No, he doesn't, so he has to stick behind again. But the more time he loses, but saying that, he looks like he had a good run there, but just maybe missed a gear there, and that couldn't get him the ultimate drive that he needed. So Pacheco very defensive, all well in his rights to defend that car in that position for P3. As he picks up some dirt there, keeps the car stable. Man, this is some great battling between Colin Racing and Road Sig Racing. Those guys are actually very close in the championship as well, the teams. So one to keep an eye on in the future as well, and see how they end up out of the 7 rounds there. But it's a very nice battle pack that is brewing here between Mark Pacheco, who I think has been the real standout since last season's Trak Racer TCR Cup. It was well down the back outside the top 10, but now found a life with Colin Racing Team, which was then Bundaberg Red Racing. And he's just found a lot of life there, and he's really started to get that car working. As we see Churchill, a little bit of contact made there, and as you're pointing out here, this tunnel is literally the worst tunnel to come out of, because you're basically blind with that light there through the sun, and it's still side by side between these two guys. This is absolutely incredible. It looks like Churchill's just got away with that. He's up into P3. But they've got some fast Peugeots behind them in the hands of Colin Racing Teams. Mark Pacheco and Jeremy Crow. Looks like Ben's going to try and go defensive, but there's his teammate. There's his teammate of Jeremy Crow, Mark Pacheco. Can they work together to get through to turn one? It's going to be very close. It's almost going to go 3 wide into turn one. Looks like Mark Pacheco's got the inside line. Will Jeremy Crow go for the inside as well? Mark Pacheco holds around the outside, goes a bit deep. Looks like Churchill's kept that position there, and unfortunately for Pacheco, loses out to his teammate in Jeremy Crow, down to P5 there. But Churchill, great defensive driving there, really got that car sticking to the ground at the exit of turn one, and he leads them going into lap 7 of 24 in position 3, and creating a gap already on the two Colin Racing Team Peugeots.
We did really have a Road 6 sandwich there between two Colin Peugeots, so that was beautiful, but the salami did fall out of the sandwich at the end, and Road 6 was able to take that inside line. Both the Peugeots kind of outbraking themselves into that turn one, and as you said, oh, that's a big crash. That's Pacheco.
Oh.
Pacheco has gone into the barrier. He will be carrying damage from that, almost certainly. So over to his teammate now, Jeremy Crow, to begin the charge back against Road 6 Racing. That was unfortunate what happened there. I think he must have just clipped the gravel. It's so easy to do at this circuit, and in this tight section between turn 5 and turn 12, really tricky to get right. You're usually not finding apexes too often, as you want to sort of run wide for a lot of those corners, but some beautiful racing between these three that we've seen here today, and that turn one was something else. 3 wide at the end of the circuit, absolutely stunning. Speaking of 3 cars in a row, here we go. There's Black Rose Racing going through, and then the 2 boosted media guys, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But the boosted team going through as well. So they're holding P78 as it stands right now, but a penalty being served there from Fly. That is Bryce Kentwell.
Yeah, that is RN Racing. Actually, it's not the boosted team is in the Audi TT. So both Craig Harcourt and Bryce Campbell, good mates actually. They're very good, been very good mates over the last few years, and they decided to get together for some racing and have some enjoyment, and especially now with these TCR Cups, doing a good job there, holding on to P7 and P8. As we saw some drivers down the order there coming into the pit lane, getting rid of those hard tyres. One driver that's come through is Kevin Cooper in 9th place. So the second CP Motorsports driver has done a little bit of a nice little recovery drive there, just defending off from Mitch Collin, who started down in 14th and second last place. So he's just trying to find his way back up towards the pecking order inside the top 8. Doesn't look like he can make a move on Kevin Cooper just yet, so he's just going to have to wait until they get to this downhill section, and he's going to try and see if he can line him up here onto the entry of turn 5 there. So, I mean, every time I just race this track, every time I look at this track here, George, the scenery is just absolutely beautiful here. As we can see, Hardcore has gone for a move on Smith, and he's done it very nicely there. He's tried to invite his teammate in Kentwell to come through, but he couldn't pull it off, unfortunately. So Hardcore into 8th as he looks, really feints a move there on the inside, sells the dummy, and looks like Smith wasn't buying any of that whatsoever. He still holds on to 7th place, but every time we race around here, it is such a beautiful sight to see. And now, finally, Cantwell has made the move on Smith, getting both RN racing cars 6th and 7th place.
Certainly, and the sun has now come out, so no more clouds in the skies, and this track will be starting to heat up ever so slightly. That's going to help the grip levels, despite them obviously being now quite low, 8 laps in, so some of the hard runners should still be absolutely fine for their tyre life at this stage. We do wonder now about how long these soft tyre runners at the front are going to be going for, but Dan Wood and PJ Mack have been absolutely flying out the front of this race and putting in some brilliant times. Dan Wood currently holding the fastest lap of 155.407. It is a very impressive time here. Not matched so far by anyone else on the track, but that Renault again, as we just saw, they got a bad run. That did allow Kentwell to get on through. So now it's the 2 Rusty Nuts racing cars, the Peugeots here, running through and up now into P6 and P7. So congratulations to them. They both managed to navigate them again. that was in front of them initially, but another good little fight between them. I'm keeping my eye as well on Monica Camilleri, who's currently down here in P13. D. Eisen is behind her, of course, the two Whiplash drivers there in P13, P14, with D. Eisen dropping all the way down the grid early on, unfortunately, and Monica going for a very, very early stop on the hard tyres. So she is going to be one to keep an eye on. She was, of course, up in P2 for qualifying, and she's now beginning her drive back.
Yeah, but the great thing is for her, she's got clear air and she's got basically the whole track to herself. All the drivers are coming into turn 5 right now. She's only about to come into turn 3. So literally she's got so much gap between herself and Williamson ahead of her, and as well as her teammate behind in Drew Eisen in 14th place. So very clean air for her, just trying to put those lap times in. Probably not going for fastest laps because it's all about tyre preservation around Grand Valley Highway. And as we can see there, looks like De Oliveira has picked up a 1.5 second penalty there. Just too much of the dirt in that Black Rose Racing Brendan began there. So he's down in 15th and last place, but unfortunately that 2.5 is going to be a little bit too much for him to catch up. But Dan Wood on lap 9 of 24, just stretching the gap there. And you can see the consistency in his lap times. He's keeping it within the 155s. He's had a 1 minute 58 on lap 6, so maybe serving a penalty or just made a mistake on that, but he's still back into the 55s. Even at the end of this lap, he's going to drop into the 56s now, so that's definitely where the tyres are starting to kick in. And Peter McKenzie's not too far behind as well. We're looking at roughly about 5.5 to 6 seconds between Dan Wood and Peter McKenzie, 1 and 2, but Churchill still holds on to P3, so it's a Suzuki Swift 1, 2, 3 so far, with the first of the non-Suzukis in Jeremy Crow in 4th place.
The pit window is open for the soft runners too.
Oh, excellent. That's a good update from our pit lane reporter. So we need to keep an eye on the pit lane entry, see if anyone does end up coming in. I think we've got a couple deciding to come in already. Yes, there's a couple of cars coming into the pit lane. We'll try and find out who they are. Here's the Cooke Racing Team chaps. Oh dear, that's a bit of a penalty there. 0.5 seconds for the Rusty Nuts car there, unfortunately. And looks like we've had a bit of a switch up as well down the grid. P7 all the way down to P10. Now very, very close running together. Let's just keep an eye here, though, because I believe that is, yes, it's Easy Prey. So we've got Easy Prey and we've got Boosted Blake here, both in the pits. And we've got Easy Prey switching on to soft tyres at this stage, or he's just on... No, he's just been on the soft tyre, now on the medium tyre, taking a bit of fuel there, up to 60%. Not sure if that's going to be enough in this race. And out come the pits now, Boosted Blake. So P15 currently running. Let's see what tyre he does jump onto at this stage.
Collins had a problem in P10.
Oh dear. So let's see what's happened here. So he's really caught up into the incident there at the exit of turn 5. That's leading up into turn 7 for Mitch Collin there. So the man that started in 14th and was working his way through very nicely there. I wonder how much damage he's picked up there, Andrew. I mean, has he picked up any engine? Because that looked like a nasty incident on turn 7.
He's gotten lucky. He's got no damage.
That's unbelievable.
Wow. Very good save. We couldn't pick it up in the broadcast there, but that's a very good save there for Mitch Collin. You can just see that the tyres are very dirty. He's just really trying to get his head through, pull his head through, and try again on lap 10 of 24. But unfortunately for him, he's behind Monica, who's already made her pit stop, and Collin hasn't already. So that's going to really cost Collin in this race on lap 10 of 24 there. But as we saw at the beginning of the race, we did see Kevin Cooper facing the wrong direction. He's done very well to get inside the top 8, but I did hear a bit of a word there. Did hear a little bit of a steward's call there that they were looking at that incident at turn 1 between Kevin Cooper and one of the other drivers. As we're not so sure who it was, we couldn't pick it up. But there is a bit of an investigation happening with car 7.5, and hopefully won't be able to shed light into that as the broadcast comes to an end very shortly. But Monica back up into P7 as all the drivers come through. So I'm very surprised here, Ando, why all the drivers ahead are running these hard tyres very long. Do they think the softs, just like we saw at Willow Springs, is just not the favourable tyre for these cars? Is it just too hot to run soft tyres around here, and they just, they have to use the harder compound just to make the tyre life last longer?
Yeah, the soft tyres definitely do struggle around here, but they are up to 3 seconds a lap faster. So if you can manage them, they're definitely the tyre to be on. But there are multiple strategies available. All the telemetry and the data analysis from Cougar headquarters in the northern beaches of Sydney tells us that the 1-stopper and the 2-stopper are very close in total race time. So you will see a variety of strategies playing out today.
Now on board with Steve Smith and Kevin Cooper, who are having a nice little battle here. Black Rose Racing versus CP Motorsports. Renault Megane, I should say, versus Suzuki Swift. And going through one of the big sweeping right-handers onto the bridge they go. Unfortunately, though, for Kevin Cooper, he has picked up a 1-second penalty, and that'll put a bit of a dampener on this fight. And there's Monica Camilleri in the distance. So she is really starting to make up a whole lot of time on the drivers ahead.
She's gained a lot of time.
It's a vast amount of time. I mean, she's driven incredibly well. I don't know what tyres she's on. Maybe our pit lane reporter can let us know what tyres she's on. But into the pits does come the Trak Racing Suzuki of PJ Mack now.
So this is going to be a huge undercut for Monica if she can get ahead of Peter McKenzie. But it looks like McKenzie's just come out of the pit lane right now, hasn't put any fuel in his car. So that does suggest that he is definitely going to be running 1 or 2 laps on those hard tyres and then back onto the softs there. But a solid drive by Monica nonetheless there. So yeah, as I did unfortunately cut our pit lane reporter off there, she was about to let us know what tyres Monica was on.
Yeah, she is on softs, but I am a little bit worried about the strategy she's chosen. She's done 4 laps at the start on hards, which amongst traffic was a little bit of a freebie, but I think that might be a little bit too many laps on hards to make her challenge for a podium today. But she will be coming back through the field for sure.
Yeah, the hard tyres are... Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, but you have to look at other drivers that were actually on the hard tyres for such a long time as well there. So we had some of the top, drivers inside the top 8 that were running into about lap 9, lap 10 on the hard tyres. So obviously they might not be in contention, but as I said there, they just maybe think the harder compound is just the way to go. Maybe the softer compound tyres isn't an option in their strategy book.
They'll be going for a 1-stopper, whereas Monica has definitely committed herself to a 2-stopper by only doing 4 laps on hards. Now she'll run softs till the end of the race, so she'll have pace and she'll have fresh tyres as well, but it might be a little bit too much to make up to the 2 leaders.
Well, that's the thing. The pit stop here, it should be relatively long considering how
Wood's
fast
in.
people will be. Dan Wood is in indeed, but he'll be taking some fuel on board. He's on 2% at the moment. But it is a tricky one because the cars are at max speed after a very very long straight. You are stopped for the usual period of time, but cars will come flying through. We'll see how this evolves between the 1-stopper and the 2-stopper. We've also got the roadster car of Churchill coming in as well to the pits. He'll also be going and getting a refuel too, but he's on 12% of fuel, so he's made it last a little bit longer. The 2-stop here, now the idea is obviously to start on the softs or get 2 stints essentially of the stops in there and a very, very short stint of the hard tyres. There comes PJ McKenzie. He's in, so he's only done 1 lap on those hard tyres. Or 2 laps, I believe, 1 or 2 laps. Now he's done 1 lap, and now he comes in. He'll throw those hard tyres out, say, nope, mandatory stuff done. Good, get me back on a pair of softs or potentially mediums. Probably softs though, given that you can get the softs to run pretty deep into this race. But there's the CP Motorsports car of Renegade. Though Cooper here was actually on the medium tyre. That maybe switched things up a little bit for
Very novel
Kevin
strategy.
Cooper.
Very novel strategy, that is. The mediums, I didn't think I'd see anyone using them today, but Cooper has chosen to go for mediums, and so that just is another strategy again. So there are multiple strategies at play today.
Certainly are, and Churchill is now behind Monica Camilleri, who is currently leading this race. That won't last forever because she does need to come in for another stop, as alluded to earlier by our pit lane reporter. She is on that 2-stop strategy. And now Dan Wood, who's coming through turn 8, 7, and 8 now. He's up ahead of D. Eisen as well, and I suspect D. Eisen is probably doing a strategy very similar to the other Whiplash driver of Monica Camilleri. Those two seem to share strategies and execute it pretty much the same.
Definitely,
Yes.
They are definitely working together. So as I did
Wood's
see
filled
there...
up. Dan Wood has filled up on fuel. I think he's going for a 1-stopper here.
I did see that as well. I was about to question that to you, and I did see he did put on the hard tyres. He put a full tank of fuel there. Is he going to go to the end? Do you think he would go to the end, or do you think he's going to look to come in, get rid of this hard tyre, and just go for 1 more? Because he did make those soft tyres last for 12 laps there, so that's very impressive by Dan Wood, the CP Motorsports car 27. He's done a very good job there to make 12 laps last on that Suzuki Swift. So
Yes, he may pit. Yeah, he may pit this lap, or he may stay out and try the 1-stopper. His main competitor, obviously, is PJ Mack, who is definitely on a 2-stopper. So this will be very interesting to see if he pits this lap.
but he's got a very healthy gap over Mackenzie there, down in 8th place. So I think he's staying out. He's staying out. So it looks like he might be going for the one stop, because look where Dan Wood is, and I want to see if I can get our camera crew to see if they can find where Peter Mackenzie is. Dan Wood's coming up to turn 1 right now. Mackenzie's in position 8. He's just come out of the tunnel here on turns 15. And yeah, and Wood is already going through the downhill section. So this is a huge advantage going to Dan Wood in this race here. So he's definitely trying to make the one-stop work. Yeah, absolutely. So Mackenzie will be reeling in that time there, roughly about 2 seconds a lap, as you predicted. So we'll wait and see what the gap is at the end of it. But again...
Oh, and we momentarily lost Nick there, unfortunately. But we'll continue his train of thought there, because as he was saying, Mackenzie is going to have to make up a lot of time on the strategy. I think what Dan Wood is thinking here, I suspect what he's thinking is, look, I got a good lead on the softs. There was no one contending for this. I can save time without having to do a second pit stop. And if anyone behind me, who've already got a huge gap over, does do that second pit stop, essentially that gap doubles. So he's done enough work to think pretty much guarantee himself that the one stop will keep him in the lead, and he's not actually that far behind the likes of Super VT and Monica Camilleri and D. Eisen, who will both be coming into the pits again. So at this stage, he's technically still provisionally leading this race
but he's
with
on
no
the hards.
indication. Well, he is on the hards, that's absolutely right. Yeah, but...
Because PJ's got no more stops either, so he's going to have to be looking in his mirrors at PJ Mack, who's going to be coming at him on fresh softs and full fuel. So this will be very interesting to see which strategy ends up being optimal.
Yeah, certainly correct.
The strategy that I want to be keeping an eye on is what Monica's doing. She's in position 1. She's coming up into turn 1 right now, and Mackenzie is just coming up into the first tunnel. But as I say that, she's now come into the pit lane, and so has her teammate in Drew Eisen. So I'm looking forward to see where Monica pops out through all of this. Will she just be ahead of Peter Mackenzie? Will she be able to jump him? It's very close.
I think she might lose out. She just spent a little bit too long on those hards at the start of the race.
But the fuel number is climbing up there for Monica Camilleri. She's already up to 50%, and Mackenzie has just entered the tunnel right now. So there's only about probably 30 more litres to go until she can get it into the car. This is going to be very close here, George. She stopped it on 88% fuel as she comes out of the pit lane very shortly there. Where are the two drivers? There goes Mackenzie, and right behind is Monica Camilleri out of the pit lane right now. And there it is. It's just, we see Peter Mackenzie up into P4, Blake, and come through there, and Pacheco goes for the move there. Very, very nice move there by Mark Pacheco. Read the situation perfectly there. Monica did the right thing to get out of the way, out of the pit lane, but that was a great move by Pacheco. But I'm very excited now to see where Monica comes out in all of this, because she's not far behind Mackenzie.
Pacheco's on mediums.
And Mackenzie was so far ahead in that first stint.
So we've just heard from our pit lane reporter as well that we've got some medium runners out there in Pacheco, so he will be slow. So now we've got Monica Camilleri here. She's got the freshest tyres on the grid at this stage of the race, and she will be flying. She's got a couple of cars to navigate in Mark Pacheco and Blake, but then there is PJ Mack here. Now he's got older tyres than Monica Camilleri, so he will be slower, but ahead of him, technically speaking. Yeah, they're still fresh, but they are technically a few laps older at this stage. Dan Wood leading at the moment on hard tyres. So we've got two cars that are going to be very, very fast in the later stages of this race. And I think that is blue. Yes, it is. Steve Smith there serving a penalty on this lap. So he will drop down behind Mackenzie, who moves up now into P3. The only person between PJ Mack now and Dan Wood is going to be Jeremy Crow, who I believe will be navigated with relative ease at this stage. I'm not sure what tyre he's on. I don't think it's a soft tyre.
He's on mediums, and Woodsy's done a blinder here. He's gone, catch me if you can, guys. Catch me if you can.
Exactly right. Well, he's been setting 57s and 58s, so... Yeah, Nick, I mean, what are we thinking here? I mean, I think Dan Wood's got it in the bag at this stage, but he'll need to keep it on the track. I was about to say.
Just almost clipped the dirt there. That could have been all the undoing there for Dan Wood. But yeah, as you were saying there, he's running a very different strategy. Obviously, he only just made it with the soft tyres. I mean, probably Ander will be able to let us know what the tyre wear was like on his soft tyres.
Terrible.
Yeah, so there you go.
He was
so obviously
56s.
Yeah, absolutely. He's in the 56,
So
but
this
there
is
you
a
go. His
huge
last lap.
call. This
Yeah,
is a
but he's
huge call for him to be doing here. He's doing 58s and 57s now, so he'll be leaking oil big time for the rest of this race.
very close between the drivers because Mackenzie's got himself a 1 minute 56.1 versus a 1 minute 57.9 set by Dan Woods. So he is closing, but I just don't know how much time he can reel in because not only Peter Mackenzie has to look ahead at Jeremy Crow, he needs to look behind as well because Monica, as reported and as seen in the broadcast, was the last of the pit stop runners down in P7 there, but she needs to negotiate 3 more cars to be anywhere in contention of getting that P2 off Peter Mackenzie, because we're not so sure what the status of the tyres are like on the Colin Racing Team cars in both Jeremy Crow and Mark Pacheco, but as also in between, you've got Smith and you've got Williamson right behind in both McGann and Audi TT.
You're right. So we are on lap 16 right now in this race. PJ Mackenzie is the one to keep an eye on at this stage. He does have Jeremy Crow ahead of him in that Peugeot. So he's going to have to set some very, very fast lap times here in that Suzuki Swift for Road Racing if he's going to catch up with Dan Wood. But as our pit lane reporter has been telling us, Dan Wood at the front is going to be bleeding time in this race. A bold strategy to take the advantage he made on the soft tyres early in the race in stint 1 and turn that into a big enough gap to run the entire latter half of this race on a one-stop strategy on the hard tyres. It's going to be very interesting to the end of this race, but as far as I can see right now, Dan Wood is out to a rather significant advantage because there he is coming around turn 5 into turn 6, and PJ Mack is only now navigating turn 1. Exactly right, Nick.
It's going to be very close. We only got ourselves, we only have about 8 laps to go until the end of this race, so it's going to be very close between. He needs to get past Jeremy Crow as quickly as he can because he's going to medium tyres versus soft tyres. You definitely want to have the soft tyre runner ahead of Jeremy Crow, but Jeremy Crow's doing a fantastic job there. Set a personal best there with a 1 minute 56.9, but again, he's not able to bend off from Peter Mackenzie. He's doing a good job there, but he's losing time to both Dan Wood up ahead in P1, and Peter Mackenzie's just got nowhere to go. He needs to bide his time, needs to find the spot there. You can see the 2 different lights there, just going a little bit narrow for Peter Mackenzie just to open up the entry going into the back half of this track, and he's doing a very...
his strategy's been compromised here by Birdman, which is unfortunate, but he's definitely being held up, I think.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. The 156s or high 156s, 157s that are being set by Jeremy Crow.
Not going to do it.
Not going to do it, that's right. And of course, that does mean that he's looking at a car ahead, not got that clean air to run through. And PJ Mack needs to be setting 55s consistently. Dan Wood will still be in the 57s or 58s. So, you know, that's a key thing here for PJ Mack to know. He really has to find a place to absolutely send it cleanly and get past. Now we're on board with Monica Camilleri, who's gone from P7 past Blake and also Ben Churchill and got herself up into P5 now in this race. She's under a bit of pressure from another Suzuki Swift behind her. This is the repeat story, and I suspect a story that is going to go on for the remainder of this season with Monica Camilleri fighting off, swatting off the Suzuki Swifts behind her, but she is doing a marvelous job right now. Her last lap of 57.0, I think that was probably because, in part, she was passing cars. So to see what she's going to do now, she comes across the line. What is this lap time going to look like? It should be a 56. No, it is another 57, so 2 57s in a row. But
significant fuel advantage over the neon behind her.
And she does have a fuel advantage, so that is good news for her. She can really put the pedal to the metal at this stage and absolutely send it. If she can get into the consistent 55s here, she could be on for a top 3 finish. She now has Blue ahead, but Blue's got a penalty, 0.5 seconds.
I'll tell you what, I'm definitely going to give the man of the match towards Steve Smith here in P4s there. So we're not so sure what strategy he's running, but if he's actually running towards the end of this stint here on lap 18 of 24, he's done a remarkable job starting P9 all the way up into P4, running his own race there. Very interesting strategy for car 54, but he's done a very good job there for Black Rose Racing to get that car up inside the top 5. So Steve Smith, we'll see what strategy he's... Oh, so there you go. So we just heard a call from our pit reporter there. So unfortunately, it was a great start for Blue, but unfortunately for our man in Black Rose Racing, looks like he may have to come into the pit lane. So he was actually closing up the gap towards Peter Mackenzie there. He's not too far behind. He's probably about 2.5 seconds behind Peter Mackenzie, but of course, Mackenzie's been held up by Jeremy Crow for good reason, of course, because Jeremy Crow is fighting for that position, for that P2. He's not a lap traffic or anything. He's just on a different compound to Peter McKenzie. And McKenzie just needs to get past him because he's just losing time. We're only going to be about 6 laps to go until the end of this race, and he's still behind the Peugeot.
He is, and unfortunately for him, he does seem to be prioritizing getting a wider entry into the corners, and that is compromising him on the exits a little bit. With the Peugeot having a better top speed, he probably needs to be thinking about maximizing either the entry speed, getting into the corners a little bit early and trying to find a way past instead of trying to open up the exit. But nonetheless, this Peugeot, as you can see, the slipstream basically non-existent between these two cars because the Peugeot's got a great top end. There is Steve Smith, blue, we're just talking about now. He's in the pits on lap 19 for probably what is a fresh set of tires, because we did see him getting all sorts of sideways. That was a good exit though for PJ Mack out of turn 1. This is going to be a good run for him. Can he find a way past?
Get his elbows out.
Oh,
he's have to get his elbows out.
He's going to have to, and he's going to maybe try send it on the third turn here. Oh, he's got an inside. He's been given space. Oh, he's got the outside, the inside line now, but that'll quickly turn to the outside. Who's that? That's someone on the middle of the road.
Yeah, Kingsley Ho was just in the middle of the road there, but he did park it out of the way there, so that's no fault of his own there.
Very good driving.
Wrong place, wrong time, unfortunately. He had to back out of it, so no fault of Kingsley's undoing there. But Jeremy Crow all under pressure and just losing the rear of that car. Those tyres are giving up there. Will McKenzie go for the dive bomb inside here? Is he looking? No, he doesn't. And looks like Crow's just able to defend off very nicely there, but McKenzie's running out of time because look who's behind. It is Monica Camilleri right behind there, and as well as Churchill. Churchill's in the fight as well.
Here he goes.
Yep, this is it.
He's
got a good opportunity here. Doesn't have the top speed, but he should be able to get under braking. Yes, there he goes. Perfect. Up the inside goes PJ Mack and takes P2 at long last. Finds his way past Jeremy Crow at long last. And Jeremy Crow's got no answer to him in the turn there to go up through the tunnel. Absolutely nothing to answer back. PJ Mack will now start his run after Dan Wood, but that fight has cost him massively because Dan Wood has just come through the first corner, and PJ Mack's just coming through the tunnel on the pit lane straight there.
Watch out for that top end speed. Watch out for the top end speed by Jeremy Crow. Crow's got some good top end speed there. 1.5 second penalty there, so maybe cut the chicane there in the last couple of corners there, but that top end of the Peugeot is working very nicely for Jeremy Crow. Does look for the move there. McKenzie goes defensive there, takes the narrow line, and is able to get some great traction out of turn 1. He's been getting some really good exit speed out of turn 1. And you can see there the gap is huge. It's already eked out to about 6/10 on the exit of turn 1 there.
Mirrors now.
Certainly does. So this is going to get very spicy towards the end of the race. Obviously, the penalty will be served by Jeremy Crow. He is out of the battle now, potentially for the top 3 position, potentially, because Monica Camilleri, who will be on fresher and softer tyres at this stage of the race, she is going to be on an absolute stend at this stage. That's Kingsley Hoey ahead of them, so she's got a little bit of blue flag traffic to navigate the stage. Ben Churchill, though, doing a brilliant job to hold on to Monica Camilleri.
To worry about.
She certainly does. He's right behind. He's right there. Exactly, yeah. She's just swatting them off, but she's such a good driver when it comes to defensive driving that she's going to easily hold off that Suzuki for many laps, as we well know. It certainly will. And this is the problem here. When you go defensive, when you're trying to run different lines, you often find that you burn out those tires. I think that may be starting to happen to PJ Mack as well, being stuck behind a medium-running Jeremy Crow for so long, having to take so many alternative lines that were, compromising his entries to get better exits. It's very hard on the tires, especially around a track like this. The PJ Mack could be in a bit of trouble towards the end of this race. It all depends, really, on what Monica Camilleri can pull out. She hasn't re-entered the 155 times yet. She's been hovering in the 56s and 57s, worrying a bit too much about Ben Churchill in her rear vision mirrors. And PJ Mack is now on a charge. He's still in the 57s. What will this lap time be? He needs to be back in the 55s, or he is never going to catch up with Dan Wood.
Monica could have a podium here if she can play her cards right.
We've just crossed past the 40-minute marker, the scheduled 40-minute lap time, so we've only got ourselves about 4 more laps to go till the end of this race. So there's still a lot of racing to go here. So Monica still got a lot of work, so still got time in her hands there, because there she is right there. Jeremy Crow entering and exiting turn 1 right now, and Monica is just entering turn 1, so it's going to be very close towards the end. She's bringing along Churchill, and also not far behind is Drew Ice. in 6th place. So very nice drive there for both Whiplash Motorsports team. And a name that I'm seeing up here inside the top 8, we haven't really covered too much of the back end of the field because the top half has been very interesting. Look who's in 7th place, fellas. It is Mitch Collin for Boosted Racing Team. He's come from absolutely out of nowhere. I'm not so sure what his strategy is going to be like with 4 laps to go here, but if this is a solid P7 for Mitch Collin, that is a fantastic drive. He hasn't got anyone in front, hasn't really got anyone behind this. A bit of a lonely race for the next 4 laps for Mitch Collin.
Sometimes you do like to... Go ahead.
His tyres are going to be the issue, but he might be able to hold on to this for a P7.
Exactly right. It's a very, very good job there in that Audi car. Looking pretty stable at the moment. Maybe a bit wide through turn 5 there, unfortunately. But yeah, he's having a very, very solid race. And I was actually making a little bit of a mental note here because this race here, Jeremy Crow has really fallen off the pace here. That last lap was a 2:01. So he's had a bit of a problem there. There's Kingsley Hoey now being overtaken by Monica Camilleri and Ben Churchill. And the note that I was making was that Kingsley Hoey, who is blue flagged, was catching up to the back of Jeremy Crow at a rate of knots. The Monica Camilleri is now within 1.5 seconds of Jeremy Crow ahead. She is going to be well within range to get past him in the last 3 laps.
He might not be a duck, but he's a sitting crow right now.
That's right, that's right. He's a sitting bird, a sitting crow, a sitting Jeremy, whatever the phrase you want to use at this stage. But
there's 2 soft runners that are bearing down on him. This is only 3 laps to go though.
Yep, a highly uncomfortable position to be in, though. A very uncomfortable position to be in, because look at Monica Camilleri. She's in the slip. She's got a great exit out of the last corner. She's absolutely flying already. Jeremy Crow, remember, he's not going to be able to go particularly defensive against Monica Camilleri. He does not have the grip in the car at the moment. Nick, this is an amazing battle spicing up.
The straight line speed I'm seeing from that Scirocco was absolutely incredible. She caught up literally within over a second to what is now 0.3 between Jeremy Crow and Monica, but he's looking to go defensive. There is Jeremy Crow there, so his tyres are running out on him. Monica's trying to go for a move, but also behind is Ben Churchill. So this is a battle for P3 in this race here. Both Dan Wood and Peter McKenzie have gone away with P1 and 2 with only 3 laps to go here. But the battle for P3 is on. Jeremy Crow, Collin Racing Team, Monica Camilleri for Whiplash Motorsport, and then we have Ben Churchill for Road Sick Racing. So Road Sick Racing could potentially have two drivers on the podium at the end of this. So it's all about trying to position the time, position the car, really get that car in the right position on the last couple of laps here. But right behind there is Ben Collin. He's got that car gripped up very nicely. The Suzuki Swift really strong in the corners there. Monica just has to wait for the straight to stretch her legs out and really close up on Jeremy Crow. But I will have to say this is a very, very solid drive here by Jeremy Crow for Collin Racing Team.
Certainly is. I do wonder if he's maybe been saving a bit of fuel. Might explain why he was a bit slowed down the straight. But we can just quickly jump over to our pit lane report as we continue to watch this beautiful battle. Ben Churchill right on the bumper of Monica Camilleri at this stage. Was there a bit of fuel saving going on by Jeremy Crow? Is he struggling a little bit on fuel as well, maybe?
Yeah, he's got the red light flashing, so he might have fuel problems. And has he run the hard yet? I don't know. But Monica's got an interesting dilemma here. She's got to watch her mirrors like crazy, but she's also got to clear Crow. So this is an intriguing battle.
Certainly is. So, I mean, at this point, we'd be getting our money out and wondering, there's the move around the outside. Oh, does try it. Nick, take us through this lap.
Oh my goodness, I thought it was going to be an outside move thing, and Churchill would have made that move stick if he just didn't hesitate on the throttle there. So very unfortunate for Churchill. That was probably one of his only chances so far in this lap here, because Monica is still closing up on Jeremy Crow here. Obviously 2 more laps to go here. Goes a little bit deep there, but is able to pull the car up just. The battle for P3 is still raging on with Jeremy Crow. Not far behind as well is Drew Ison. So Drew Ison can be a factor at all of this as well. He's only about 2 seconds behind Churchill down in P6 there. As these guys are getting a little bit of a cork in the bottle, is Jeremy Crow there. Both taking the tight line. Oh, Monica's got some excellent grip on those front tires, but she's got nowhere to go. But now she might be able to make the move in. Does Monica? Oh, Crow goes defensive. A very nice defensive drive there by Jeremy Crow. Just clips the nose off Monica's car. Don't tell me he's going to run out of fuel on the last. He can't run out of fuel. He's only got 1.25 laps here, Andrew. He's got so much racing to go here. He's got no fuel in the tank at all. Monica's going to take P3. Will Churchill follow her through? They're going to go side by side into the tunnel there. A little bit of contact made between the Whiplash driver and Colin driver. And right behind there is Churchill. Goes a bit wide on the chicane there. But it is so close quarters there. Monica Camilleri. And here comes Drew Ison. Ison's come from out of nowhere. It goes from P6 to P4. Both Whiplash drivers in 3rd and 4th positions on lap 23 of 24. That was an absolutely great positioning of his car is Drew Ison there. And as we see there, Jeremy Crow has come into the pit lane. Out of fuel, 1% of fuel on his car. But what a move there that was by Drew Ison to get his car up into P4. Churchill was battling for P4, but Drew Ison's come from out of nowhere. Can Churchill get the traction down? He can't. He's stuck behind the Scirocco there, but coming down to this downhill section for the last time, it's going to be Whiplash Drew Ison versus Road 6 Ben Churchill. Get a little bit more grip on those tyres. He had to touch the brakes there. Churchill, very close. Just loses it. Just got a little bit flustered there by Ison's positioning of the car there. I think that might be it for the Road 6 driver. Don't see too many more opportunities unless Ison makes a big mistake there, but P6 to P4. Wow, take a bow there, Drew.
Take a bow there. All 3 of these drivers, all 4 of them, Jeremy Crow included, do let us know. Ando, quick question for you, mate. Did Birdman come out on the hard tyre?
Let me see.
Yep, go and check for us, because if he did, then he was never really in this battle.
No, he did not even change tyres, so he's obviously had a bit of a letdown from his pit crew there. His race engineers have got the fuel strategy wrong.
Oh, that is a disaster. I had a feeling we were seeing that Peugeot very slow on the straight. Now Neon, Ben Churchill going for another attack. Oh, being covered off by Drew Ison, going very defensive there. That's a highly defensive move. Aggressive defending there. Certainly was, and now around the outside, the Suzuki Swift will try. Ben Churchill doing everything he can. He wants that P4. Dan Wood has come across the line to win this race, by the way, but we can't look away for even 1 second from this battle. I think it might be all she wrote at this stage. PJ Mack will come across the line in a moment, but Monica Camilleri, what a drive back. She will take a podium position here. 3rd spot. D. Ison out of the woodwork. He comes, retaking 4th position, which is where he qualified in this race, and will take home a P4, followed by Ben Churchill as well, taking a P5. What a battle at the end of this race.
Flashing all the lights there for Drew Ison for a solid drive there. So started P4, finished in P4. Monica Camilleri lost a position at the start of the race there, but that was a very good strategy by the Whiplash Motorsports to get those cars back inside the top 4, with Monica on the podium for the first time in the Trak Racer TCR Cup in Season 2. Right behind is Churchill, and unfortunately for Jeremy Crow, as reported by our pit lane reporter Andrew Scott, just got let down on the fuel numbers, unfortunately. So down in P6. Steve Smith up into P7, gets ahead of Mitch Collin, and Mark Pacheco finishes in 8th place. And then Williamson 9th, and Colin down in 10th place there. So I think it looks like Colin must have picked up a penalty on the end of that, because it was P8, finished in P10, so definitely a 1-second penalty next to his name, unfortunately. De Oliveira in 11th, Kevin Cooper 12th, and then we have, unfortunately, Kentwell in 13th and Kingsley Hoey in 14th, with Craig Harcourt, the unfortunate retirement in this race here at Grand Valley.
What an absolute spectacle. By the way, everyone in chat, you have all been having a brilliant time based on the comments that we're seeing there, and we have been in the commentary box and in the pit lane as well. Stunning result there for the likes of Dan Wood and Peter McKenzie, but the battle really was for 3rd place today. Drew Ison, I don't know what he pulled out in this race, but that strategy worked out absolutely perfectly. Unfortunately, with Jeremy Crow, the mistake there cost him that podium. If he'd had enough fuel in that car, he might have easily, I think, been up there for a P3 finish. He was driving incredibly well, driving incredibly defensively as well, but unfortunately for Colin Racing Team, they will not get that podium spot, and the podium spot instead goes to Whiplash Motorsport, a P3 and a P4. Great result for them, but CP Motorsports will be stoked. Dan Wood, fastest lap, out in the front, race win. What a stunning, stunning way to continue in this TCR season.
Absolutely right there, and we are getting a little bit of word here from the stewards room, so maybe our pit lane reporter might be able to let us know what happened. At the start of the race, we saw car 575 pick himself a bit of a mistake there. I don't know whether it was contact, but is there any more information regarding car 575 on that opening lap.
Yeah, I'm told that it was, I believe, Mitch Collin ahead of him at the time, and he may have been squeezed off with a bit of an illegal blocking move. Not intentional by any means, but I think it might have been a driver awareness thing. He unfortunately got squeezed off, and there may be a little bit of a paddling coming his way.
Too right.
Oh dear. Yeah. His day could go from bad to worse. Was starting in P7, was up into P7 at one point, finished P10 with a 1 second penalty next to his name there. So, very unfortunate drive there for Mitch Collin after starting 14th place there. But I mean, if it has to come, if it's time now to give our Trak Racer driver of the day here, I don't know who to pick because if we were looking left, right, front, and center, I would have definitely given it to Jeremy Crow there. But I want to hear from your opinions, George. Who do you think you could pick your driver of the day for Lobby 1 here in the TCR Cup?
Well, it's a tricky one. I mean, so many interesting strategies out there. Honestly, I'd like to give it to Dan Wood today because that strategy to be on the hards, he put a huge margin between him and Peter McKenzie, in P2, a huge margin, and then managed to drive home the entire race on hard tires despite running slower laps the entire time. So I think my driver of the day is going to be Dan Wood today, but I'm keen to hear yours as well, Nick, and then of course our pit lane reporters. For those of you in chat, do let us know who your driver of the day is for Lobby 1, and bear in mind we do have Lobby 2 coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. As much as I want to give it to one of the drivers from Whiplash Motorsport, I might go for a bit of a dark horse here. I'm actually going to give it to Smith from Black Rose Racing. Very solid drive. He was literally flying under the radar, put himself up into P4, inside that top 8 throughout the whole race there. Was one of the last drivers to come into the pit lane and put a fresh set of soft tyres. Came through from P11 back up into P7. So for Blue Blossom Steve Smith for Black Rose Racing in that Megane, the only Megane on this track here, besides his teammate in Oliveira, who is a reserve tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I think that was a very solid drive there for Smith for Black Rose Racing, and he deserves my driver of the day.
And over to you, Andrew, in the pit lane, your driver of the day. And just before you give us that, comment from Matthew Joinson, a familiar name here in MotorMotion E-Series. Stuff driver of the day, team of the day, Whiplash Motorsport. I think that's a fair call.
Yeah, I agree. They've pulled off a novel strategy, but I can't help but think that Monica might have cost herself second place there by doing too many laps on hards. So my honourable mention goes to Birdman because although his team let him down with the fuel strategy, they elected not to change tyres on his last pit stop. And that, I think, might have saved him a position. But I tell you what, my driver of the day definitely, by far, goes to Dan Wood for pulling off the one-stopper. He's won this race by 23 seconds, guys. Has he not?
I think he has. Yeah, it's an impressive margin there.
That is a clinic.
It certainly is. Yeah, it certainly is. But I agree. Look, I think honourable mentions all around the grid. There was some brilliant racing here in Lobby 1. Excellent work from all the teams and all the drivers. And we will be going to a short break now for 5 minutes, and we'll be back with you for round 2, or so round 2, Lobby 2. There we go. The commentator slip up happening already, unfortunately, chaps. But folks, we will be back in 5 minutes. Stay tuned. More action coming up on track with the TCR Trak Racer Season 2 MotorMotion E-Series race. So stay tuned. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Alrighty, welcome back. We're about to kick off things into Lobby 2 here at the Trak Racer TCR Season 2 Cup. Of course, hosted by MotorMotion E-Series. It's myself, George Cooke, Nick Pautasso in the commentary box with our lovely pit lane reporter in Andrew Scott, who has been giving us some fantastic statistics and analysis down from the pit lane. Taps, we're basically ready to jump into Lobby 2, so I think after that incredible race in Lobby 1, I'm very excited to see what Lobby 2 has in store for us. So looking quickly at the previous race results for round 1 in Lobby 2, Andrew Scott did take a victory last time out. He's now in the pit lane here, unfortunately unable to race at Grand Valley this week, so we won't see him out on the track. But gentlemen, let's have some predictions for today's race in Lobby 2.
Ooh, well, I'm not so sure. It's very interesting there because obviously we did have Ando and Mick Hill finish 1-2 last time out of Willow Springs, and both were running very similar strategies. So Mick Hill had a very good second of that race, finishing P2. But like I said at the beginning of the broadcast, I'm looking forward to seeing what Hooncorp can do. Lewis Atkinson did finish P2 in the first lobby at Willow Springs, but his teammate in Rain Campbell wasn't there, and Rain is very well known, regarded to be one of the faster drivers in that Hoon E Series team. Hooncorp, rather, almost getting that name wrong. So Hooncorp E Series, there we go. I've been looking forward to see what he can do and see if he can get a win on his debut in MotorMotion. So one to keep an eye on is Rain Campbell and Hooncorp Esports.
Certainly is. And Andrew, maybe you can tell us why you were unable to get to the Grand Valley Speedway this week.
Yeah, unfortunately, work's got in the way again. I've got a training course going on, so unfortunately, I was in Melbourne having beers with Spud when this race took place. But I'm liking my boy again, Disposable Hero. He's on pole, but he's got the two Hooncorp drivers behind him, so I'm a little bit worried about the old 1-2 punch there. But of course, we've got old mate Rolls in fourth as well in the Audi TT, so he can never be discounted. I mean, that boy's got pace.
Exactly right. So, of course, qualifying has just ended for Lobby 2, and that's why we're getting a few results before we go through our grid walk, which is coming up right now. So, Nick, please do take us through our qualification grid for Lobby 2.
So Lobby 1 is done. Now we're up to Lobby 2, one of our favourite lobbies. Unfortunately, it's not Division 2, it's Lobby 2, but still a 2 next to the name. But it is Mick Hill on pole position here, and this is an interesting one here. Mick Hill on pole, Lewis Atkinson and his teammate Rain Campbell in P2 and P3, and Robert Foster is in P4. So this pace that Mick Hill has brought, this confidence that this man has brought in the Me Cougar driver development team, has been absolutely incredible to beat three of probably the fast drivers here in MotorMotion E-Series. So to take pole position, that's a huge effort there for the man from Me Cougar, the sole Me Cougar driver. And then we have Tyler Lansdale, who's come in as a substitute driver for Gridline Racing due to Scott Taylor not being available. So Tyler Lansdale from Trackstars Racing now into the Gridline Racing Audi TT in 5th place. Then we have Naki Nax in 6th. Matthew Joinson for Pit Lane Esports, Juiced Motorsports in P7, and Matt Hatton inside the top 8 for ISA Esports. So a very familiar name in P5 there. Let's wait and see what Lansdale can do. Then down in P9 is the other Juiced Motorsports driver in Tony Griffin in 9th place, and then Mark Hasseldine for his own team in Hasseldine Motorsports inside the top 10. Ricky Rick in 11th place, just missing out by 0.2 of a second behind Hasseldine. And then Troy Britnell in 12th place. So 12 drivers. They were very well separated by, I think, about a second and a half there between the top 12. So very close qualifying between the drivers here. And then Scott Taylor in 13th place. There you go. So actually my mistake there was actually Jeff Brun that was missing from the race here tonight. And it's Scott Taylor down in 13th place. A bit of a surprise there. I'll get your thoughts on that, George, later on. And then Richard Robertson in 14th. And then Mark Karras in 15th and last place. Another driver missing on the grid there. So 15 drivers across 2 lobbies there. But a interesting name to see down there in 13th place there, George.
Certainly is. Scott Taylor usually finds himself further up the grid, and we've been super impressed with his driving, especially in the previous season of the TCR Cup. So it will be one to watch here. Maybe his strategy will be able to pay off. But nonetheless, the cars are on the grid. They're about to get the lights going. The race start procedure has begun. The time to go down onto the grid and get started. for Lobby 2. Here we go. So the lights will go out momentarily. There's 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and we're out. Here we go. Already the false start grid just immediately goes, and great start from some at the back there. Pit lane esports cars moving up the grid. They're 4 wide already at the start. This is going to have to sort itself out into turn 1. Disposable Hero though, Mick Hill's had a terrible start. Lewis Atkinson up into P1 before turn 1 happens, and through he goes. He solidified P1 off the start. What a great start from that Volkswagen, and the grid starts to sort itself out in the background. Tyler Lansdale stays in 5th place there. There's 2 cars side by side, but the big news here is Lewis Atkinson up into P1, running very, very wide though. Into turn 5 they go for the first time. What a start for Hooncorp Esports.
Biggest mover of the race so far is Tony Griffin from P9 up into P4. He's looking to make the move on Rain around the outside of turn 6. Can he make that move? Can he make a move stick on the Hooncorp driver? No, he doesn't, but that's P9 up to P4 already from Tony Griffin. So what a start by the Juice Motorsports driver in car 62. That is a great opening lap there for Tony Griffin. Right behind there is in Tyler Lansdale inside the top 5 for Gridline Racing, replacing Jeff Brun, who was actually in the background there moving house. And so big congratulations to the MotorMotion admin into moving into his new house. So he's done a very good job to hire the driver in the caliber of Tyler Lansdale in 5th place. Robert Foster from 4th down to P6. So there's a lot of work to do there. As we can see there, Tony Griffin up into P3. He's got the switchback move on Rain Campbell. Will Tyler be able to follow him through inside the tunnels? They go through the first time here. Griffo puts the car in the perfect position there. P6. Tyler Lansdale looks for an inside move there on Tony Griffin. He doesn't. Bit of contact, bit of biff and barge between the 2 drivers there on Tony Griffin. But Tony Griffin from P9 to P3. 6 positions on the opening lap there. Wow, what a drive.
Incredible. And we've got Robert Foster right up the rear bumper of that Hooncorp Esports car right now as well. So it's turned into a 4-way battle, and Foster is on an absolute charge now and will be keen to get that car involved in this. And there is a car moving out to the side. That's Tyler Lansdale. He's actually taken the position away. The Audi getting great run out of the last corner. He'll have the inside line. Into turn 1 they go. And that's Rain as well. Campbell comes back with a switcheroo on the pit lane esports car. So Rain, Campbell will go through. Once again, Griffin, while he made some great spots there, he really lost it on the straight. The Suzuki suffering. He's at the start of that train, and the slipstream really carried the other cars around him. He'll have a little bit of work to do to get back up into it, and this is bringing other cars in as well. In Naki Nak.
Foster off.
Oh, that was very, very, very off.
Very
indeed. Ooh, but he's gone around the outside. What a move from the Suzuki Swift driver there for Juice Motorsport. Oh, more contact between these 2.
The grip that he's got in that Suzuki Swift is absolutely incredible. Back up into P4, but as he called it there, George, he was a little bit hampered by the straight line speed that Suzuki Swift does not have. So both Lansdale and Rain were able to work with each other and really just use their cars to their maximum capacity and really get that top end over the Suzuki Swift. So Lansdale up into P3, Griffin down to P4, Rain down in P5, but we did see there Foster go very wide going down the hill into turn 4 there, because caught a bit of the dirt there, and not a familiar sight that we see with Foster down in P7 there. We usually see him up towards the front, especially as he qualifies in pole position. But Naki Nax is going defensive there for the Hasseldine Automotive. Renault Megane, even though it's got a Ford badge, it is a Renault Megane, ladies and gentlemen, as he goes defensive on Robert Foster. He's doing a very good job there. He's in a bit of a Hasseldine sandwich there with Mark Hasseldine, the owner of Hasseldine Automotive. He's not too far behind, but Foster gets a very nice exit out of the little tight chicane out of the tunnel there. It turns 15, I believe. Turn 15. Mark Hasseldine in 8th place. Scott Taylor's made a few positions from into 9th place from 13th. So a lot of work to do for GLR Scotty to get himself up towards where we normally see him. George inside that top 5, and maybe potentially, if he gets the strategy right, could be fighting for a podium.
Exactly right. Scott Taylor, he's made a good start there. 3 laps, or on the 3rd lap now, 2 laps down, and GLR Scotty doing a very good job, but that was a very wide car in Matt Smacker Asa here. Oh dear, I've just said that on stream. P10 here at the moment for the Renault Megane here. So that was a little bit wide there. Try to move on Scotty in front, but unfortunately didn't make that work. This battle is starting to really kick off. Scotty's right in this now on the back of Hasseldine. So yeah, this is really kicking off here, and Scotty has got a great opportunity to make up more places here on lap 3.
And the leader has a penalty. The leader has a penalty.
Lewis Atkinson with a penalty at the top of the grid. We'll quickly take a look at that. It's 1.5 seconds.
This could get spicy into the tunnel.
It certainly could. So 1.5 seconds there for HC Lewis. It's Lewis Atkinson with Mick Hill in tow at the moment. These two have run away with it a little bit, but there's not too much of a gap between Mick Hill and Lewis Atkinson. But down onto the bridge they go. This is where the penalty line and the penalties get served. Hard on the brakes there. So here we go.
He's on the wrong side of the road.
He certainly is. So, this is going to get very, very interesting. Mick Hill's got a chance here on the inside. Through into the tunnel they go. He's got the inside line. Lewis Atkinson holds it around the outside beautifully, though. This will rapidly turn into the inside line. A little bit of scraping of paint jobs there, but Lewis Atkinson will have the corner again. Oh, that's great driving between these two guys.
That was very close there for Mick Hill. He was looking to go side by side on the exit of that chicane there, and Lewis just cut the nose of that Cougar snout in car number 3 there. So very close driving. Very good driving by all drivers there. But yeah, I will say I did see a lot of drivers in that first lobby move to the right-hand side to burn that penalty. So it looks like, unfortunately, maybe, potentially, there could be something going towards the Hooncorp driver. But he's gone defensive there, trying to defend from Mick Hill here in Disposable Hero. Car number 3, the sole Cougar driver development driver in this lobby here. So he's doing it all on his own. His teammate sitting here in the pit lane, watching his protege in Mick Hill in P2, whilst they've got Tyler Lansdale not too far behind in that Audi TT, and he's gone off into the gravel. That's going to cost him. That's dirty tyres.
Dirty tyres.
There's going to be dirty tyres for Mick Hill there. He's not be able to pull the car up. He just pulls it up. Does car number 3, but brings Lansdale into the fight here. So the fight between P1 has gone from about what was 4.5 seconds to now only 2 between the top 3.
Certainly has, and Lewis Atkinson there runs very, very wide, also gets himself a set of dirty tyres. We did also see Robert Foster jumping into the pits. He started on the hard tyres. Amazingly, he was still in that battle at all, but he's got in and changed those tyres immediately. That could be indicative of the kind of strategy that he's thinking in this race. We will expect to see him back further up the grid later on in this race. What a start from all these drivers. Lewis Atkinson nearly lost it completely on a number of times throughout that lap, as well as nearly being overtaken by Mick Hill. It was fantastic stuff. But by the way, Tyler Lansdale has not let these two actually get away. In fact, he's on an absolute charge right now in that car. So another one to keep an eye on here. Currently sitting in P3. He's got Griffin behind him in P4, then Campbell P5.
Now, let's see if we can get any words from our pit lane reporter, Ian Andrew Scott, to see what tyres these guys are running. We can see potentially we got Lewis and Disposable on the soft tyres, but we might get some confirmation here between if the top 3 are running that fast strategy and going, trying to build their gap straight away and really just pull away from the rest of the field, because you can see the top 3 have pulled away from Tony Griffin in P4. So, Ando, let us know what tyres everyone is on here on lap 5 of 24.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious to everyone that the top 3 are on the softs, but interestingly, the top 4 are on softs. Griffin done a great job there. He's maximised the decision to start on softs from P9 and get up to P4, but I can quite proudly say that Disposable Hero, Mick Hill, he has got a significant tyre and fuel advantage over the car in front of him. So I think we might see 2 different strategies playing out with the top 2 here. But Mick Hill's sitting good, sitting well, but he's got Lansdale behind him to look out for, because his tyre and fuel are similar as well. So this is going to be a ding-dong battle.
Yep, an evolving battle that we will continue to watch throughout this race. GLR Scotty has made it up to P6 now. We did see Campbell come into the pits and exchange that set of hard tyres that he started on for a softer set of tyres, the mediums or the softs. We're not 100% sure exactly what tyre they will have come out on, but nonetheless, we are going to keep a very close eye on that. So a couple of early pit stoppers, starting on the hard tyres, switching out immediately. That's definitely one philosophy for the strategy today. But yeah, as we've said before, and we saw this in Lobby 1, the tyre life, preserving tyres is going to be absolutely key. You're better off having better tyres at the end than having track position, it seems, although at the same time, we have to reference Jeremy Crow, who managed to hold off PJ Mack in the previous lobby for all of, what was that, about 7 or 8 laps? It was a mega job, and he was on the medium tyres versus a soft tyre runner.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to look down to P5 there. We have Matthew Hatton for the ISA Esports Random again, doing a very nice job there. So a little bit further back from the top 4, but he's holding on to position very nicely for ISA Esports in 5th place. Then Scott Taylor in 6th. Then we have Mark Hasseldine, the leader of Hasseldine Automotive, in 7th place. And then we have Ricky Rick inside the top 8 with Troy Britnell not too far behind for Lightning Motorsports 8th and 9th place, Richard Robertson inside the top 10. And then we have, I believe, yeah, Richard Robertson is running the Mad Turtle Racing Audi TT. I wasn't too sure where he was. Then we have Mark Karras, who has been a substitute driver for Ethan Simmons for ICE Esports in 11th place. And then we have Matthew Joynson down in 12th place. This is a bit of an interesting position to see Matthew Joynson having a good qualifying, but just down the positions, down in 12th place. Maybe he changed tyres, maybe he had an off there. You could see there on his lap time, he had set a 2-minute 1 on lap 2. So something happened to car 777 that we couldn't find. Looks like as well, Robert Foster and Rain Campbell probably would have come into the pit lane themselves. So we can see there, Robert Foster in 12th, Rain Campbell in 13th, and Naki Nax in 14th, with Troy Britnell getting rid of those hard tyres and potentially putting on a softer compound.
Yeah, exactly right. Matthew Joynson, interestingly to see him down here. I don't think I remember seeing him go into the pit, but he's now on the back of that ICE Esports car of Mark Karras. So Mark Karras is going to have a bit of work to do here. We did hear momentarily from our pit lane reporter that Karras is holding damage on the car, so he won't have any of that repaired until he comes into the next pit stop. So Matthew Joynson is now all over the back of that Renault Megane in his Suzuki Swift. And I don't think this is going to last long, this battle, because look at Matthew Joynson. He is all over him, using every alternative strategy possible. It's a switcheroo that's going to happen. He'll get a good run out of turn 9 and 10 there, and this will be it for Mark Karras. He will fall down into P11 and up into the top 10. Goes Matthew Joynson. A very nice move there. Put a lot of pressure on Karras and forced him to essentially force his way through, but in a very, very clean and respectful manner, as we do expect from Matthew Joynson, a well-known face here in the MotorMotion E-Series. And Karras, unfortunately, if he is holding damage, that's going to compromise him massively in this race. But looking back at the top of the field, Lewis Atkinson continues to lead us away at this stage of the race, but Mick Hill has not let him get away like he did at the start of this race.
Yeah, he's doing a very good job there, is Mick Hill. As we heard from our pit reporter, Hernando Scott, the leader of Me Cougar Drive Development, he's given us the reports that he's got some better tyres and fuel conservation there, and he's doing a really good job to just keep onto the back of Lewis Atkinson, who's leading this race on lap 7 of 24. But one notable absentee I'm missing from this picture here is Tyler Lansdale. He was right behind, 2 seconds behind Lewis Atkinson a few laps ago, but he's dropped well back down the order there. 2-minute 1 lap on lap 6 there. So something drastic happened to that Gridline Racing Audi TT, which has now brought Tony Griffin back into the fold here for the battle for P3. Unfortunately for Lansdale, that was a bit of a costly mistake on his end there that happened for car 888, and Tony Griffin's car 72 Suzuki Swift doing a very nice job there. I will have to say, so far, Tony Griffin take a bow from 9th to 4th in 7 laps. That's absolutely incredible. It was also up into P3 at the end of lap 1 there, so he's doing a very remarkable job.
Leader's got a penalty.
Oh, we've got another penalty here. Oh, Lewis Atkinson is serving the penalty on the bridge, and Mick Hill has driven past him. So there we go.
Again.
Yeah, a big switch up in this race. Once again, Lewis Atkinson, he's choosing the wider lines. He's burned up more of those tires, and he's making mistakes, which is not what you want to do when you're leading the race. But the pressure from Mick Hill obviously proving a little bit too much in this case, or just a little bit of driver error. We'll never know, unfortunately. But Mick Hill now up into the lead of this race, and as far as we understand, on better tires and fuel than Lewis Atkinson, who's now got a lot of work to do back in P2. And in fact, I think at this stage, Tyler Lansdale is closer to Lewis Atkinson than Lewis Atkinson is to Mick Hill, and he comes into the pits. So there we go.
Wow. Early strategy call here for Lewis Atkinson. He's on soft tyres, less than 50% fuel here. So what is the strategy here for Lewis Atkinson? It's a bit of a weird one we're looking at, because lap 8 of 24, I would have to assume he might throw in a set of hard tyres, maybe run that set of compound for a few extra laps here before he puts on those soft tyres. But that first stint, despite him taking the lead on lap 1 and turn 1, done a very good job there to get the jump over Mick Hill, has cost himself with 2 penalties next to his name there, and unfortunately dropped back behind Mick Hill in this race there, with Mick Hill now extending his gap over the now P2 in Tyler Lansdale and P3 Tony Griffin here. But I'm going to be very interested to see what happens to Lewis Atkinson. He's down to PA. He must have maybe put on some hard tyres, no fuel in his car. We'll wait and see what happens with a car 151.
We certainly will. And one interesting thing that I did note between the driving styles of Mick Hill and Lewis Atkinson was really sweeping the car out to the right and the left-hand side of the track, trying to open up corners as much as possible. You don't see Mick Hill doing that as much. He's a bit more conservative on his lines in and through the corner. And I think that may have made a big difference, not only to tyre life, but just to the risk that you're taking with the car. Of course, the more that you burn the tyres away, the more you lose grip, and the harder it is to make the car do what you need it to do. And that could be indicative of some of those penalties that we saw Lewis Atkinson pick up. But he's now, as Nick said, he's got another one. Okay, let's jump down. He has another 1.5 second penalty to this midfield section here. Sector 2 has been a disaster for Lewis Atkinson. There goes Matthew Joynton up the outside. Yeah.
He's on hards with soft runners behind. He's battling the mid pack here. Oh, you don't need. Oh, what a unlucky.
In fact, his teammate Campbell is going to come on through as well, I suspect. We'll see if there's any team orders between these two. But yeah, I think that strategy has not really worked out for Lewis so far, with a penalty as well. He's pushing it maybe just a bit too hard, not quite adjusting for the fact that he's now on hard tyres after coming off a soft stint. Always difficult as a driver to make that switch in your head.
7 laps on softs is not a good number, and plus the penalties, I don't think he'll be a factor in the rest of this race.
Very interested to see that. As we see there, Rain Campbell putting in a 1 minute 54.5. That's actually the fastest time we've actually seen in both lobbies there, with, I believe, Dan Wood only set himself a 1 minute 55 in the opening stint. So very fast lap times from Rain Campbell here as he looks to size up a move on Matthew Joynton. Gets the move onto the inside before they get into turn 1, which is this very sharp hairpin corner. It opens up a little bit on the exit there, but there is a bit of an Armco barrier that you have to negotiate and not run too wide onto that curbing. Very nicely done. And it's all about getting this fast downhill section right. If you put 1 inch of a tyre on that dirt, the car is going to misbehave badly there. Does it very nicely there, and then a heavy braking zone, downhill braking as well, ladies and gentlemen. It's very tricky to get right. The lines these drivers are taking are very different to one another there, so whether the middle line or the inside or hugging the inside is the best line to go through, it's all about drivers and their capabilities around here at Grand Valley Highway. Robert Foster inside the top 8 after coming into the pit lane as well there, so doing a good job there to be ahead of Rain Campbell.
He's on mediums.
So there you go, a bit of a different tyre strategy there for Robert Foster, as both Rain is on the soft tyres after he did start on the hards in the early part of this race. They only did 3 laps on the hard tyres, but he needs to get past Robert Foster as quickly as he can, get past the Audi TT, the Mad Turtle Racing Audi TT versus Hoon Corp Esports Volkswagen Scirocco there. But it is Mick Hill still leading the way ahead of Tyler Lansdale and Tony Griffin inside that top 5. Here comes Rain Campbell on Robert Foster, who's got some better drive out of the exit going onto the bridge there. As we see Tyler Lansdale ahead has come into the pit lane. Gets the move done, does Rain Campbell very cleanly there. Robert Foster just given way. Didn't want to put up a fight on that. Drops down to P9, Rain up into P8.
That's exactly right. We did just hear from our pit lane reporter that Robert Foster is on the medium tyres, so I suspect then Campbell must be on the soft tyre compound at this stage of the race. That's why that move was so easy for Campbell. So Robert Foster going for one of these alternative strategies. We don't reckon that the medium tyre is necessarily a good option here at Grand Valley, but we'll see what he can do. We know he's a very, very capable strategist, is Robert Foster. So for Mad Turtle Racing, hopefully the team and the engineers will be having a good conversation down there and trying to figure out something special. Maybe pull a rabbit out of the hat, or a turtle, in this case, out of their hat. But nonetheless, he is now down into P9 at this stage. I did also note that we've had Matthew Joynton's team let us know that he pitted on lap 1 to get rid of the hard tyres. So that is why we saw Matthew Joynton drop all the way back. By the way, he is actually catching up with these two, I should say. So Campbell and Robert Foster will have Matthew Joynton to deal with in the next lap or 2. And behind them is Lewis Atkinson. I believe he's still running the hard tyre at the stage. Nacky Nax now catching up to him from P12.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did see ahead there, we did see Tyler Lansdale from Gridline Racing, the substitute driver for Gridline Racing, come into the pit lane. I believe he's definitely on the hard tyres and hasn't put fuel in his car at all. So he's running until the end of the fuel tank to really get rid of those hard tyres and really drain the tank as much as he can, so he can set himself up for what could potentially be a 12-lap stint on the soft compound tyres. We'll wait and see what Car 888 does. He's just ahead of Ricky Rick in the Lightning Motorsports Suzuki Swift, but he's got a good gap between himself and Hasseltine, so he's got a bit of clear air, and he needs to try and get those hard tyres up to temperature, because whether he's going to stay out for the whole lap or whether he's going to do a whole stint on these hard tyres is going to be interesting to see on lap 10 of 24. But it's still Mick Hill doing a very nice job there in P1. He's got a good gap over Tony Griffin here, but I still can't get over the fact that Tony Griffin from P9 up into P2, all bearing the drivers have already made their pit stops, but that's still a very good drive there. And I think with Mick Hill as well, being very patient, not making the moves that he needed to make on Lewis Atkinson. He did see he was getting penalties, yes, but he didn't want to make any silly moves there. We did see after Atkinson got his first penalty going side by side through the tunnel there, it was a great call, almost wiped out Atkinson or got his nose cut off there by the Hooncorp driver, but just played his cards and he's done a very good job there holding on to P1.
Exactly right. So Hasseltine now up at the P3 overall, Griffin P2, Mick Hill in P1. Tyler Lansdell has come through after his pit stop a couple of laps ago, and well, that was nearly close to the gravel there, but really holds it very, very nicely in this car. Lansdell now back up into P4. He's got 2 cars ahead of him that will need to pit. We are coming up on half race distance here in Lobby 2, and it's been very interesting so far. I don't think, now we did mention just a moment ago, the one-stopper, run the hards towards the end. Anyone doing that without taking a significant lead at the front, or at least a significant lead over the people that you are fighting in this race, I think they're going to suffer with that one-stop strategy. The only person that we've seen attempt that and actually pull it off at the stage is Dan Wood from the first lobby that we saw, who ended up with a 20-second or so gap out front after his first stint. Gave him time.
Pit window's open. Pit window's open.
And the pit window is...
Will the leader pit?
Well, exactly right. So here we go. We're looking at Mick Hill as well. But as I was saying, the only person to pull out that strategy that we were talking about before from Dan Wood has been Dan Wood. And if anyone tries that without getting a significant lead, I suspect, over their opponents, will be suffering at the end on those hard tyres. Mick Hill in the pits. He's on the been on the softs. He's got 20% in the fuel tanks. Obviously doing well on the fuel. That'll save him a bit of time in the pit stop. We'll keep an eye. Through goes Tony Griffin, though, to take the provisional lead of this race for PLE.
He's going the 2-stopper.
There you go. I was about to cross over to the pit lane reporter, but he's already made the call already that some of the drivers have come into the pit lane now, so we can see that Mick Hill has put on the hard tyres. Hasseltine was on the medium tyres, so that's a very interesting strategy there. He was running very nicely inside the top 8 throughout this whole first stint, so full credit to the Hasseltine automotive driver in Mark Hasseltine on the mediums. He's now going to have to try and put on some hard tyres for this stint, maybe just run the fuel down a little bit. It looks like he's putting some fuel in that car, so maybe a different strategy next to his name there. But Mick Hill didn't put any fuel in his car. He's still running on, he's still going to run those hard tyres out towards the end of the fuel tank. And then we have Tyler Lansdale. He was still on the hard tyres, did put some fuel in his car, a little bit of fuel in his car, not too much though. But Rain is the man to keep an eye on so far, coming off those hard tyres at the end of lap 2. And he's on the soft tyres, he's on the charge, he's not too far behind Mick Hill, so it's going to be very close between what Rain can do. Can Rain close the gap on Mick Hill when they get into this final stint? We'll find out very shortly. Ricky Rick
I'm
is
hearing
getting
calls from the Mick Huger pit lane. He's doing 1 lap on hards. He's going to try and do a 12-lap stint on softs to finish off this race.
Now that could prove very, very interesting in this race. Obviously, we know that Mick Hill's got some pace and he's very good at preserving his tyre life. He has been trained by the Tyre Whisperer, and the student recently became the master, according to the master, that is Andrew Scott. So we'll be keeping a very close eye on Mick Hill throughout the end of this race, but Campbell here doing a great job. Tyler Lansdale's just served a penalty on the bridge, so Campbell goes on through for Hooncorp Esports. And by the way, in the background here, we've got Robert Foster and Mad Rick duking it out at this stage. Robert Foster will go up the inside into the tunnel. Griffin comes into the pits as well, and we'll see Mick Hill shortly in the pits as well, based on the information we've had from our pit lane reporter. So at your moment, your top 5 looking like Griffin, Mick Hill, Campbell, Tyler Lansdale, and then Robert Foster. But this is about to switch up massively, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely, and I will say that's a very solid first stint there by Tony Griffin there. That's a stint and a half there for the man in car 62, so very good job there. Got rid of those soft tyres. He's done 12 laps on those soft tyres, so full credit to the Juice Motorsports driver as well, so very good effort. He's actually come out of the pit lane right now, so he's definitely, so obviously he must have put on some hard tyres on this short stint. He only had 10% of fuel in, so that's more than enough to do a lap and a half of this Grand Valley circuit, this 5-kilometer circuit on the outcoast of California. But he's got Rain Campbell right behind on soft tyres, albeit worn soft tyres, but much faster than fresh hard tyres. Will he go for the inside? He's going to look for an outside move, brakes a little bit later. That's the advantage of the soft compound there. Can he get the run around the outside? He does, and that is a very nice move there by Rain Campbell. Now takes the lead on lap 13 of 24, but he does have to make one more pit stop, does Rain Campbell, and Griffin will have to make his way back into the pit lane at the end of this for what could be another 12 laps or 11 laps on soft compound tyres.
Exactly right. We did just see Ricky Rick, Tyler Lancel, and Mick Hill all jump in the pits, get rid of their hard tyres. So they'll all be out on a charge. And with Campbell having to go and pit again, he's going to have to put in some absolutely brilliant lap times. He's still, though, holding on to the fastest lap. And this is the fastest lap that we've seen in both the lobbies so far, 54.5434. Correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, but I think that is the fastest lap we have seen out on track. I think the fastest lap in the previous lobby was a 55.4. So this is great pace from Campbell at this stage of the race. He's pushing that Hoons Corp Esports car to the absolute maximum. Griffin has fallen back a little bit, but there's Robert Foster up in a P3. We know he's already pitted and gotten rid of his hard tyres early on in this race. He'll have to make a decision, though, at some point. He's on the mediums still at this stage of the race, and they're not necessarily going to last to the end, but we'll keep an eye on him as well. Matthew Joynson there taking up the P4 spot, and there is Lewis Atkinson. So Lewis Atkinson, I believe, and we'll go down to our pit lane esports reporter for this, is Lewis Atkinson for Hoon Corp Esports still on the hard tyre at this stage of the race?
I believe he is. I'm not sure. I can't see right now, but I think his race was done and dusted with his errors at the start. So I'm really interested here. His teammate, though, Campbell, is a factor for sure. I think he's got a chance here.
You're right. So Tony Griffin comes into the pits, as does Matthew Joynson, both low on fuel. Tony Griffin on the hard tyre, so he'll switch that out rapidly and switch onto a much softer compound. Matthew Joynson, we'll have to keep an eye on him and his strategy. Up in a P4 now, and in a fight with Hatton, it is Scotty. Nick, take us through.
Oh, very nice move there by Matthew Hatton there. Covers the inside line, gets past Lansdale. Actually, no, I believe that is Scott Taylor. I got a little bit confused there. The side number. They obviously running the same car, obviously didn't change the numbers there, did the Gridline team of running the Lansdale number instead of the number 37, but that is Scott Taylor, ladies and gentlemen. Did get past there by Matthew Hatton for IC Esports. A very nice move there on the exit going into turn one there. He's just going to lose a little bit of time here, but I wonder if there's a bit of a difference in compound here, Ando, if Hatton is running the soft compounds and maybe Scott Taylor's got a little bit more tyre wear on his Audi TT.
Sorry, I'm just lining up at the bar at the moment, so I can't quite tell for sure. But
we'll get back to him very shortly.
I'm sure your hunch is correct.
We've got Naki Nax in P6 for Hasseldine Automotive. Richard Robertson for Mad Turtle Racing inside P7, but I think he'll need to do one more pit stop. And then we have Troy Britnell in 8th place, and there is the first of the two stoppers in Mick Hill in position 9. So we look at him where he is right now to where Rain is. He's coming up towards this last tunnel section onto the pit straight. So bit of a gap between both Mick Hill and Rain Campbell, but there's still a lot of time to find, and Rain will need to really get his head down, and he's got his head down right now. He's back in the pit lane. He's going to do 10 fast laps on soft compound tyres. Needs to put a bit of fuel in his Volkswagen Scirocco, but we'll wait and see what happens on his end there. Robert Foster did have to come into the pit lane because you could see there he's got no fuel in his Audi TT, so that gives HC Lewis the provisional lead on lap 15 of 24. But the battle is what we want to see here. It is going to be between Mick Hill and Rain Campbell. Who's going to be the battle of the two stoppers here? We're going to see very closely as he's onto the pit straight right now, getting a good hand in the slipstream from Troy Britnell for Lightning Motorsports there. We can see that Rain Campbell's still in the pit lane. He's still putting fuel in his car. He's got 98 litres there, and comfortably goes Mick Hill ahead of Troy Britnell, and most importantly ahead of Rain Campbell for Me Cougar Driver Development, up into P6 with drivers ahead of him yet to make their pit stop.
But this is really working out for Me Cougar at this stage, even though they're one driver down in this race. Mick Hill is absolutely on a charge right now, executing the strategy to perfection. And Andrew Scott, we hope that you're bringing our burger and fries up to us in the commentary box for our post-race debrief. But obviously he's in the line right now. We'll go back to him at some point soon. But now Mick Hill's got to navigate a little bit more traffic. We've got Robinson ahead at the moment for Mad Turtle Racing. So he'll have to get through on that car. He's still under a bit of pressure from Troy Britnell. He's not happy that he's lost that position. They'll be trying to fight back as best he can. But as we said before, we've got Tyler Lansdale here, who's managed to get up ahead of Campbell. So the strategy working out for Tyler Lansdale at the moment. I did hear, by the way, that Scott Taylor unfortunately did do the same paint job on his car that he did on Tyler Lansdale. Got a little bit confused. Didn't read the serial number quite correctly, so that's why they are unfortunately running the same numbered car with all the same decals today. That's not quite ideal, but we'll keep that in mind as we go through the remainder of this race. Tyler Lansdale now putting a lot of pressure on the back of the Hasseldean automotive car of Hasseldean, though this is going to be interesting. Over the bridge they go, the big beautiful bridge here. It's a beautiful bit of scenery as well. Down into the tunnel they go, and up the hill towards the last sector of this circuit. Hasseldean's done enough to hold off the advances of Tyler Lansdale at this stage. Campbell, though, is absolutely in this. It's all going to come down to this pit, this main pit straight at this stage. The slipstream will be strong for rain in the background, so keep an eye on this.
Absolutely right. We can see a penalty there for a second and a half on Tyler Lansdale. That is not what he wanted. For Gridline Racing's their substitute driver for Jeff Brun. He's got himself a second and a half penalty. That's going to open up the reins, no pun intended, for Rayne Campbell for Hooncorp Esports to try and get a double overtake on these two drivers. But not far behind there is Tony Griffin there. So Tony Griffin could be an X factor here tonight if he's able to get himself inside that top three. Potentially, we'll find out very shortly there. Lansdale can't get a move on Mark Hasseldean there. He's trying very hard. He's got a much better exit, does Tyler Lansdale, but right behind is Rayne Campbell on the soft compound tyres, fresh soft compound tyres next to his name there. It's going to get very congested. Whoa, watch out as they get into the braking zone. Mark goes defensive. Looks like Rayne's got in and Mark's gone too deep, and that gives Rayne 2 for 1 for Hooncorp Esports. That's a brilliant move there by the debutant in Hooncorp Esports. Rayne Campbell, 2 for 1. Thank you very much. Tyler Lansdale, unfortunately, has to serve that 1.5 second penalty, so he'll lose out 2 positions there, as we see Tony Griffin right behind there, trying to get past Mark Hasseldean as quickly as he can there, and he's just driving a very nice line there is Mark Hasseldean, but unfortunately losing time towards Tyler Lansdale. As we can see, finally, looks like Griffo might make the move on the Hasseldean automotive driver. He's got a little bit more traction, does he? He's still going to go side by side onto the bridge. Looks like he's got it done very nicely there. So well done to Tony Griffo getting that position on Mark Hasseldean. But there you see Tyler Lansdale losing all the time. He's going to lose 1, could lose 3 positions out of this. He's going to drop behind Robert Foster. So not what Tyler Lansdale wanted.
Ouch.
No, yeah, that's definitely an ouch right there. It certainly is. We've got Lewis Atkinson coming into the pits now. He was on that hard tyre for a very long stint. He's now in the pits, and GLR Scotty goes up ahead. So does Hatton at this stage. Beautiful driving between these drivers, and Tyler Lansdale with that penalty has lost out massively. Robert Foster will be stoked because now he can go straight after the back of Tony Griffin, who's up ahead of him for Juiced Motorsport, I believe it is.
Looks like he's coming to the pit lane.
Oh no, I think he's just going defensive at this stage. Yeah, no, it did look like he was. He was threatening it. Definitely was threatening it, that's for sure. Campbell, though, for Hooncorp Esports, doing a brilliant job at this stage of the race. Now, I do want to go to our pit lane reporter in terms of current P1 and P2, Hassan and Scott Taylor. Do they need to pit again in this race, or is it really all as it stands at the moment on lap 17?
Yeah, I think neither of them have run the hard, maybe, but they've both got fuel issues as well, I think. But I think they both of them still have to pit.
Sure. So in that case, that means that the provisional P1 in this race is actually going to be Mick Hill right here. He's got Campbell behind him, several corners though, but setting purple sector times at
got a
this
penalty.
stage. Oh, Mick Hill has got a penalty, a 1 second penalty. We just switched away on the cameras just as it happened, but he would have run just a little bit wide there, unfortunately. So a 1 second penalty for our provisional race leader for Cooke Driver Development. Is that going to cost him? I'm not sure, but here is Campbell. He's a few corners still behind. Disposable hero Mick Hill will now serve that penalty. I don't think it's really cost him a huge amount in this race at this stage. He might get away with 1, maybe not 2 though.
He's got
lost 1.2. He's lost 1.2 there in that sector there. And as we have a look at what Rayne Campbell's doing, he was going purple through sector 1. So we're going to be watching out on his onboard to see what lap times he's going to get out of this, because this is the man that's on fire. He's on form. They're coming out of the tunnel there, very blind. That sunlight just gives you a massive glare because it's just losing your braking references and markers there. Clips the dirt there, keeps the car in one position, in one piece, does Rayne Campbell, but very blind entry or exit out of the tunnel there. But Rayne Campbell's definitely closed the gap now. He's about to approach turn 18 right now as Mick Hill is coming up towards turn 1 as we speak very, very shortly there. Will this be another fast lap for Rain Campbell? I don't think so. He might just pull back behind 1 minute 55. So he's lost a second on that lap there. So probably hampered himself on that last sector, unfortunately. So where he could have gained time on Mick Hill, unfortunately, he lost time. So a little bit of work, a little bit more work to do for Rain Campbell. He's only got about 6 more laps to go until the, 7 more laps until the end of this race. So plenty of racing on offer here, ladies and gentlemen. So stay tuned for what is going to be an awesome finish. And we have Robert Foster now ahead of Tony Griffin. So could Foster be a potential X factor in all of this? Because he's got tyres, he's got fuel to the end of the race. So does Tony Griffin. So does Tyler Lansdale. This could be a spicy finish for the last step of the podium.
Hill's got no fuel.
Say again, pit lane reporter.
Hill's got no fuel. He's got fuel issues.
Oh, okay, right. I was actually going to ask if Hill has got damage from the penalty that he picked up, but obviously not the case. But fuel issues for Mick Hill, that is a big problem.
20 litres less fuel than Campbell behind him.
Oh, so that is going to explain a lot in the difference between these times. Look at Robert Foster here. He's in the low 55s at the moment. Rain has been setting 55s as well. Disposable Hero is now in the 58th. If he's fuel saving towards the end of this race, that is going to be a disaster.
You have to remember he did serve a second penalty on that last lap, so that definitely dropped his time down to 1 minute 58. So we'll wait. So this will be a little bit more of a representative lap time to see where Mick Hill is relative to both Rain Campbell and Robert Foster, because P3, or the battle for P1, is still on here. We're only about to cross to the start-finish line with 6 laps to go, and it's not over yet.
He is short shifting.
Oh, yeah, so that is going to cost him time. Let's see what his time is across the line. It should be a 56. Yeah, just in the 56s. But actually, even with the fuel saving that he's doing, he is not doing bad at all. Yeah, that's exactly right, Andrew. So you'd be very proud of him at this stage. Low on fuel and short shifting, but still managing to keep the times up, which is very impressive. So he's obviously doing well enough in the corners, in the inner sections of Sector 2 and Sector 3 to maintain an advantage throughout the entire lap. But looking back at Campbell's, just set a 54.8.
He's in the 54s. Wow.
So that's 1.4 seconds gained on Disposable Hero in Mick Hill. That is absolutely incredible. What about Robert Foster behind there? He's another man that was setting some good lap times. He set a 1 minute 55.4, still faster than Mick Hill, but is losing time to Rain Campbell. So I think if we're looking at this right now, it's going to be a very close finish between Mick Hill and Rain there, and I don't know if Robert Foster's got the pace to really close up on Rain Campbell, because he's not closing, he's not really reducing that gap to the Hooncorp driver, and he's now coming under pressure from the Suzuki Swift driver in Tony Griffin and as well Tyler.
Another penalty.
He does indeed. Oh dear. It's just gone from a dire situation to a worse situation for Mick Hill. You can see around the corner just behind him, entering the bridge now, is Campbell. So Campbell is now able to see the back of this Cooke driver development team car, and unfortunately for Mick Hill, that penalty as well as the potential fuel saving he has to do, that'll be another 58 laps. So that's probably going to be almost 4 seconds of catch up from this lap here. We do see Hatton come into the pits there, so he will drop out of the provisional P1 that he's been holding for the last little while. Scotty will take the provisional P1 now, but we do know that Scotty has to pit again at this in this race. So Mick Hill now going to be under a lot of pressure, because if we jump on board now, there you go, you can see the car out and front, and that is Mick Hill. So from the front mirror here of Campbell, who's just set a 155.4, lost a bit of pace throughout that lap, but still on great pace here. What did Mick Hill set? Let's see, it's a 58.2. So this is going to get incredibly close for P1. It's not over yet, and it's not over for P2, and it's not over for P3 at this stage with about 5 drivers in it.
He's inviting him to the party for the win with his penalties.
Is this maybe a new tactic for the Cooke driver team, is it?
I don't know. I'd like to say he's just toying with him, but I'm not so sure.
Yeah, absolutely. He's running a bit of a different line there, running the high line and trying to cut back into that second apex of turn 6 and 7. So really just coasting that car through, especially through this midsection here. So he's definitely, as you said there, he's low on fuel, but he's just lifting and coasting through that section there. So there's a very nice flow in that car number 3 in the hands of Mick Hill. But as we can see there, Rain is now coming right behind there. We're looking at roughly about 4.5 to 5 seconds, I would say, between those two. It's very close, but there's only about 5 laps to go. So Rain really needs to get the hammer down. He really needs to get back into those 1 minute 54s, low 1 minute 55s if he's got any chance to close up to Mick Hill, because if Mick Hill keeps putting in 1 minute 56s, high 1 minute 55s, he might just get away with it. But look at the cars right behind Rain as well. You've got Robert Foster, you've got Tony Griffin, Tyler Lansell just had to burn a penalty there, so he drops the position back down to Lewis Atkinson, which I will say is a very solid recovery drive by Lewis Atkinson. Set his fastest lap and the fastest lap of the race with a 1 minute 54.5. So the Hoon Corp Scirocco's are on form here tonight.
Leaders in the pit.
In lobby 2, as we see Scott Taylor now finally entering the pit lane, and will now give free reins to Mick Hill to take the lead on lap 21 of 24. Rain Campbell in P2 officially, and right behind Robert Foster, Tony Griffin, Lewis Atkinson, Tyler Lansdell, and we have Matthew Johnson. But let's see where Scott Taylor comes out in all of this. He's put 35 litres on the car. Definitely going to be a soft run to the end for the gridline racing driver. Let's see where he pops out. He's on hard tyres and slots into P8 for Scott Taylor. So not too bad there, but will come under pressure from the drivers behind.
Oh, he's in trouble.
Okay, well, we'll keep it. We will go back and have a little look at what Scott Taylor's able to pull off in this last 3 laps or 4 laps of this race. Interestingly, though, for HC Lewis, if you take into account the penalties that he had served in that first stint of his, he would be ahead of Robert Foster at this stage. He'd still be in the podiums, potentially still ahead of his teammates. So those penalties early in the race have absolutely cost Lewis Atkinson a chance at a potential victory here, as disposable hero in Mick Hill and Campbell still yet get closer and closer. A 56.5 depth by Mick Hill and a 55.4, so there's a second and a little bit of difference between these two, catching it a second a lap. But is that going to be enough? That is the question that we are going to be asking in the last of a few laps of this race. Robert Foster will be holding onto a comfortable P3 at this stage of this race. I think Griffin may have just fallen off him a little too much to catch back up, but there's still all to play for the podium position here. But P1, P2 seem to be fairly solidified at this stage. The question is what the order is going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tony Griffin's doing a fantastic job getting his Juice Motorsports Suzuki Swift into P4, but Lewis Atkinson with that 1 minute 54.5 2 laps ago is really closed up, and you can see there Lewis is definitely going to get past him within the next lap or so as we go on board with the man, the leader of Hoon Corp Esports in car 151, as we sit back and relax and enjoy the perspective of Lewis Atkinson here at Grand Valley Highway.
In the slip.
Not a bad turn one there. And of course, make sure you are listening in. We're going to stay on board for an entire lap here with HC Lewis. There is action going around the battle, around the rest of the circuit, but staying on board here for a enjoyable sound lap. Here we go. And across the bridge we go for the remainder of Sector 3 with Lewis Atkinson. Nice driving there from the Hoon Corp Esports driver. Really stunning stuff. He did manage to make his way past Tony Griffin as well. That's a nice little onboard lap there. Always enjoyable to do that, chaps, isn't it? The sounds of these cars is very different between all the cars, but it is really interesting to have a little listen.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a very good, very nice sound there from car 151. So you can definitely tell they've brought the package there. Did Hooncorp Esports. So did obviously so did me, Cougar Driver Development. But the gap has not really closed up that much here. So lap 23 or 24 is, looks like Mick Hill's still got a reasonable gap over Rain. I think Rain's just running out of time here, ladies and gentlemen. We've only got ourselves 1 3/4 of a lap to go until the end of this Grand Valley Highway race here in the US of A. Rain Campbell, can he close up with only 1.5 laps to go? We'll find out. We've got pretty much 3 Scirocco's inside the top 4, so that just shows some great performances by Volkswagen to bring a good package here for Lobby 2 in the Trak Racer TCR Cup, with Robert Foster still holding on to P3, but we did see with that onboard lap there with Lewis Atkinson, he was really closing up towards the back end of Robert Foster's Audi TT. So could we potentially see a whitewash of the Volkswagen Scirocco's at the end of this? We'll find out on the end of lap 24.
Certainly will. It's been a very, very exciting race so far. Some very interesting strategies. A lot of penalties we've seen in Lobby 2. A lot of people picking up penalties, a lot more than Lobby 1, as far as I remember. But nonetheless, it has been a great drive here from the top 3. Robert Foster as well, who started with basically pitting at the beginning of the race and running mediums, something we would have expected to really drop him down. He's now in P3 in this race and still looking pretty secure at this stage. HC Lewis is still a number of seconds behind him in terms of on-track position, so Lewis will only have 1 lap to do it. It'll take a mistake from Robert Foster to lose out on that P3 spot. Just got to keep it clean, bring it home for the last lap of this race, which we are now on, as Mick Hill picks up a penalty. 1.5 seconds, Mick Hill. This could be game-changing here, and Campbell will have to run a decently fast lap. It's still in the 55s, dropping off on tyre life. 56.3 previous lap from Disposable Hero. So this is going to be absolutely massive through into the penalty zone.
And he's got fuel problems.
Oh my goodness. That is not what you want to have for Mick Hill.
No, definitely not. Sit back, ladies and gentlemen, because we've got ourselves a cracker of a finish here. 2.5 on Mick Hill, and he's also low on his fuel number, so that short shifting on that Scirocco is going to be very high on the hands of Mick Hill. He's got his team boss and team leader and Andrew Scott sitting in the pit lane, watching his driver, willing his driver coming through. It's going to be very close to see what Mick Hill can do. A 2.5 will feel like an eternity as they come onto the bridge for the last time. Rain Campbell's not too far behind in that Hooncorp Esports driver. It's going to be so close as we go on board with Rain Campbell. Let's see how much of the gap he can close there. It's come down to about less than 2 seconds now, but it's a 2.5 penalty that he has to serve. There he goes. He's served his penalty there. It's going to feel like an eternity for Mick Hill.
Oh.
He's got the car back up and running. Rain is closing. He's closing. It's not enough. He's going to have to stick behind. He sends it up on the inside. Contact made between car 3 and Rain Campbell as they come to the chicane for the last time here on lap 24 of 24. What a great spectacle we're seeing here in Lobby 2. It's going to come down to the wire, ladies and gentlemen, between the 2 Scirocco's. Me, Cougar Driver Development versus Hooncorp Esports. It's a run to the finish line. Rain Campbell sticking right underneath the rear wing of car number 3. When does he pull out of the slipstream? It's going to be very soon. He's got to run. He's going to get him right on the outside. It's going to be side by side. It's a drag race to the finish line. It's going to be Mick Hill that takes victory over Rain Campbell. Wow, what a great finish for car number 3. Mick Hill gets the lead, gets the win, only by 0.005 of a second, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, if that's a horse race that if I've ever called, this is definitely a car race. This is the best sim race I've ever called. Between Mick Hill getting the victory over Rain Campbell in P2, Robert Foster holds on to P3, Lewis Atkinson, a great recovery drive there for Hooncorp Esports. Wow, I've lost my breath, fellas. What a finish that was.
I don't think we have decimals in our timing screens to describe how close that was. Somehow, the run that Campbell got wasn't quite enough there, but these two were inseparable right at the end there. It was unbelievable to see what happened at the end. There was a bit of contact as well at the end of that race, which, of course, was not taken advantage of by Campbell. It was that close at the end. In fact, I'm going to be asking the broadcast team in the background to go and get us a photo finish of the end of this race, because that was something else, gentlemen. Absolutely unbelievable. Mick Hill takes home 47 points. No fastest lap for him. He was suffering on fuel, tires and everything at the end of that race, including penalties, of which the Cooke driver development team were not immune from. Likewise with the Cooke guys, who suffered many penalties throughout that race. But Campbell, what a drive that was from back in the field all the way up into P2, held it beautifully. Robert Foster takes P3. That's your top three at the moment. Lewis Atkinson, a good drive back, cost himself a victory here today, I believe, and taking fastest lap though, so 31 points for him. Gentlemen, drivers of the day, I'm going to quickly go and talk to the broadcast crew and get a photo finish of the end, but please, drivers of the day, your thoughts on what was a spectacular race in Lobby 2.
Absolutely spectacular race there. Mick Hill takes the victory only by the skin of his teeth there. Literally nothing in it between himself and Ryan Campbell, who did a very good job on his debut here, did Ryan Campbell. So definitely for the debutant, I'm going to give it to Ryan Campbell. Almost pulls out a victory on his first outing here at MotorMotion E-Series for the Trak Racer TCR Cup. An honourable mention as well to Tony Griffin inside the top 5 after starting P9. So well done to the Juice Motorsports driver, getting 25 points next to his name there. But I don't know, I'm just starting to lose my voice, fellas here. I'm really just struggling just to keep my composure after what was a fantastic finish here. And I know my pit lane reporter here, and Andrew Scott, has almost had a heart attack moment. We've almost had to call 000, or in this case, America, just almost after suffering a heart attack here at Grand Valley.
Oh, I tell you what, that was nerve-wracking. Yes, exactly. But I'm going to give honourable mention to Tony Griffin and Mick Hill for different reasons. Griffin, what he did on lap 1 was just phenomenal. You go from 9th to 4th, and Mick Hill obviously choosing the optimal strategy and executing it just. But I've got to give driver of the day to Campbell, Ryan Campbell. What an effort! Like what a show he put on. And a grandstand finish there, and clean driving overall. That's what impressed me the most.
Absolutely a great call there. Yeah, and Nick, while the broadcast crew is just finishing off sorting out this screenshot here of the final moment of this race, which came down to the wire, your driver of the day, please. And of course, everyone in chat, do let us know who your driver of the day is today for Lobby 2 as well.
Yeah, no, well, I did give my driver of the day was to Ryan Campbell. So Ryan Campbell gets 2 votes there for driver of the day. So we need our 3rd vote from yourself, George. So well, obviously, I mean, you could be biased, you could go for a Kiwi team, or you could join the pond and come visit us in Australia. Maybe give yourself an Aussie driver of the day. You could be the judge for the last vote.
You guys know that I don't involve my bias in my commentary opinions too much, I should say. But no, Campbell there, stunning drive up the grid, and to finish that close. And by the way, this is how close it was, folks. It was by a bumper only. How about that, everyone in chat? Have a little look at this unbelievable driving. Campbell, of course, that big send into the tunnel does take a few points away from me, but he had to try something. Fortunately, there was no significant consequences for that contact, and Hill was able to get away, but it was as close as this, and that is just an unbelievable finish. I think my driver of the day is going to go to Mick Hill for holding on through that situation, through penalties, through lack of fuel, all that. So my driver of the day is going to go to Mick Hill. 2 for Campbell in the commentary boxes here, and 1 for Mick Hill, and a photo finish to round it all off. What a brilliant race that was.
What an absolute race. That's definitely one of the best TCR races I've seen so far here at MotorMotion E-Series, and we're only in Season 2, so what can more seasons happen here at MotorMotion E-Series? So stick around, ladies and gentlemen. So hit the subscribe button and click the notification bells here for here at MotorMotion E-Series if you want to see some exciting racing here in the TCR Cup. But as we look towards the driver's standings, here we are out of the 2 rounds so far in America at Willow Springs and at the conclusion of Grand Valley Highway. Here is where we stand. Dan Wood, 96 points. He's got clean sweeps next to his name here and getting the full points. 48 points in round 1, 48 points in round 2. At the end there, with that going towards Lewis Atkinson down in P3. So top 3 is where we would expect them to be, George. And after those races and performances, I'm very excited to see if we one day I want to see both CP, me Cougar, and Hoon Corp Esports in the one lobby, because that, ladies and gentlemen, will be a spicy lobby.
That will be the lobby of the century, especially here in TCR Cup. It's brilliant how close things have been here. And of course, honourable mentions there to Jeremy Crow and Monica Camilleri as well, bringing up the 4th and 5th position, and Robert Foster there in P6, equal on points to Ben Churchill in 7th with Matthew 8th. And here's your 17th to 32nd positions as well. And looks like we've had a bit of a stream issue there, unfortunately. Just got to quickly refresh and make sure that things are still go on the stream. Do let us know in chat if things are still go on your side of the aisle. Looks like things have actually slightly died. Can someone in chat please let us know? There we go. I think we're back online.
Good.
Excellent. Good stuff. Thank you, guys. Sorry about that. But here's your standings for 17th to 32nd currently after round 2 in Season 2 of the Trak Racer TCR Cup. It's looking very, very spicy here, but the thing that we're all interested to see is how the team's title is looking after round 2. And here we go. Me Cougar Driver Development, despite being a driver down in the results today, still holding on to it. So, Andrew Scott, no, comment from the man himself.
Yeah, no, we'll take it. I cannot wait for the lobby where I think this is turning out to be a bit of a real rivalry here. Me Cougar versus CP Motorsport. Can't wait for the day where we're both in the same lobby.
Going to be amazing. So CP Motorsport, of course, taking P2 at the moment. Dan Wood and Kevin Cooper doing a brilliant job with those Suzuki Swifts. Hoon Corp Esports in P3 at the moment, and they're only 10 points ahead of Rotic Racing. It's still all to play for. Things can switch up incredibly quickly in this new format here we've got for the Season 2 of TCR Cup. Of course, no divisions here. The teams do switch from round to round. 5 rounds to go after this as well. So we're very much looking forward to how things go. But yeah, chaps, absolutely brilliant race today. Nick, over to you for a few final comments. We'll start rounding out our stream today.
Well, if like us, as we said earlier, we put 3 of the top 3 in one lobby, even to throw Road Sick in there, even the likes of Whiplash Motorsport, we're going to get ourselves a juicy lobby there. But no, absolutely very excited to see how these next 5 rounds go here at MotorMotion E-Series. I'm very excited to see who will come out on top in the next round, in round 3. But I will say that photo finish at the end there, I know I have to back my boy in Dan Wood, getting the victory, 2 from 2, getting a clean sweep in both pole positions and fastest lap, and getting 96 out of 96 points. But man, that lobby 2, that was definitely the highlight of the night so far here in at Grand Valley Highway. But yes, absolutely awesome, absolutely phenomenal to be commentating alongside George Cooke, and as well as our pit lane reporter and Andrew Scott. And it's a great pleasure to work with you, gentlemen, and I'll be looking forward to what is going to be an exciting round 3 in 2 weeks' time.
Absolutely right. So yes, a big thank you, of course, to yourself, Nick Pautasso. Make sure you tune in live for Track Stars Racing tomorrow evening on YouTube around 6 p.m. AEST for more fantastic commentary from the legend himself in Nick Pautasso. And a big thank you to our pit lane reporter in Andrew Scott, has done an epic job giving us the analytics that we need to bring you all the excitement here. So thank you to you both. It's been an absolute pleasure. And of course, a huge thank you to all the teams and the drivers. We wouldn't have anything to commentate on if we didn't have the excitement out on the track. And a big thank you to all the admins and organizers in the background from MotorMotion E-Series to bring us the Trak Racer TCR Cup Season 2. Epic races here at Grand Valley this week. We had 2 brilliant lobbies at the highway, and next week, or sorry, the week after, in 2 weeks, we will be going to Europe. It's time to shed our feathers, our eagle feathers from the Americas, and move over to the land of beer and all sorts of other things like mulled wine. And we're going to Italy first out to Maggiore West. So for round 3, make sure you join us in a couple of weeks where we're going to be seeing the European spectacle raced by the TCR Cup. So prepare for that. We're going to be back in 2 weeks. And until then, we're going to sign out on this stream. It's been an absolute pleasure, of course, bringing you the live commentary here. Myself, George Cooke, Nick Pautasso, and Andrew Scott. Thank you very much. Good evening, good night, and goodbye.